Chapter 29-31. Ancestor Mu had his own plan. In his opinion, killing Xiao Qian was far more useful than letting him live. At least, Xiao Qian would become an existence that could restrain little Qing. Ancestor Mu had his own plan. In his opinion, killing Xiao Qian was far more useful than letting him live. At least, Xiao Qian would become an existence that could restrain little Qing. Not knowing what Ancestor Mu was thinking, Ancestor Mu just told Chen Yan to ignore this matter and that he would deal with Xiao Qian himself. Ancestor Mu was waiting for the rift between Xiao Qian and Xiao Qing to widen gradually. Then, sooner or later, Xiao Qian and Ancestor Mu would turn against each other and break off their relationship completely. That would be the origin world's chance. In Ancestor Mu's opinion, although Xiao Qian was a threat, that was all. He wasn't a big problem. As long as he got rid of little Qing, getting rid of Xiao Qian would be a matter of course. Patriarch Mu had his own plans. On the other hand, little Qing, who was in the land of creation, had finally grasped the secret of resurrection after a period of trial and error. Little Qing's continuous trial and error finally succeeded in resurrecting the martialists who had their 7 emotions and 6 desires removed from them. Although most of them had died in the process, those who had survived had become emotionless walking corpses, just like the new warriors in the origin world. Little Qing didn't care about little Qing. However, little Qing did not care about these things. The life and death of these martial artists were not worth mentioning in little Qing's eyes. As long as he could achieve his goal, little Qing did not care about their life and death. After finally grasping the method of resurrection, little Qing was in a good mood. Old Tree, Beast Slave, Sure Song, and the other ancient creatures saw that little Qing had succeeded. Some of them were calm, but some had complicated expressions, such as Beast Slave and Sure Song. After mastering this technique, little Qing knew what she wanted to do. Just like in Origin World, she would erase the emotions and desires of the warriors in other universes. Then, she would make them like the new warriors in Origin World. They would have unlimited chances of revival. However, what would Xiao Qian and the others do? Would they sit back and watch, or would they intervene? However, once Xiao Qian and the others made a move to stop her, then it would be tantamount to completely falling out with little Qing. This was something that the Beast Slave and Sure Song did not wish to see. Therefore, after seeing little Qing succeed, the two of them did not feel too happy in their hearts. On the contrary, they were deeply worried. How far Xiao Qian and Little Green would go was not something the Beast Slaves could decide. While Little Green was happy, she looked at Old Tree and the others and said, "We can start now. Take away the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the people of each universe. This is the first step, and it has to be fast." Right now, there were many universes attached to the land of creation. These universes weren't conquered by the origin world, and the warriors in those universes weren't deprived of their emotions and desires by the origin world. Thus, little Qing had a chance. Moreover, if little Qing had extracted their emotions and desires, then these cultivators would only obey the orders of the land of creation, just like the new cultivators in the origin world. Little Qing did not hesitate, nor did she have any intention to change her decision. Hearing this, Old Tree and the other creatures of the land of creation immediately nodded in response. However, the Beast Slave and Sure Song were stunned on the spot with complicated expressions. Noticing their expressions, little Qing frowned slightly, and her tone was slightly heavy. "What? Do you have a problem with that?" Guessing what the two of them were thinking, the Beast Slave and Sure Song hastily bowed and said, "We don't dare." Although the Beast Slave and Sure Song had complicated feelings, they did not dare to disobey little Qing's order. Since the day they were born, they had been loyal to the world spirit. As long as it was little Qing's decision, they had no reason to question it. No one dared to disobey little Qing's decision. Soon, the creatures of the land of creation went to each universe and began to capture the warriors of each universe. Just like the origin world, the land of creation changed from a protector to an invader. In the beginning, no one knew what had happened. However, as the creatures of the land of creation launched an attack and forcibly took away the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the warriors of the various universes quickly learned the truth of the matter. Although they did not know the reason, the land of creation became an existence similar to the origin world in an instant. They also wanted to turn all the warriors of each universe into walking corpses. Faced with such a situation, the warriors of each universe naturally fought back. However, their counterattack was useless against the land of creation. Under the leadership of Old Tree, the Beast Slave, Sure Song, and the other ancient creatures, the counterattack of each universe was easily suppressed. Cities, continents, and universes were quickly occupied. In every city, one could see living beings from the land of creation standing guard. As for the many warriors, their emotions and desires were wiped away one by one. They were like flocks of lambs waiting in line to be slaughtered. The sudden attack of the origin world did not give the other universes any time to react. Everyone's face was filled with grief and indignation. They did not know why the land of creation had suddenly changed so drastically. Originally, the land of creation was like a guardian deity to them. Because of the land of creation, these universes could avoid the torment of the origin world. But now, the land of creation had become an existence similar to the origin world. Were they just pawns that could be sacrificed at any time in the eyes of the land of creation and the origin world? Were they just objects to be used in the eyes of those big shots? Was there nothing else besides that? Many people knew the reason why the land of creation was able to do this. It was because the origin world had mastered the method of reviving cultivators, and this method could only be realized by erasing the 7 emotions and 6 desires. That was why the land of creation was able to do this. Because of this, the land of creation acted against them. Everyone was filled with grief and indignation. They were also members of this world, and they were also existences of flesh and blood. However, in the eyes of those in power, they were merely a group of chess pieces with value. Are we really just pawns? Who else in this world can help us? Are we really just pawns abandoned by this world? Could it be that only those who were blessed by the heavens could be considered as beings recognized by the heavens and earth? What are we? At this moment, everyone felt the injustice of this world. Compared to the ancient creatures, the ancestors, and the spirits of this world who were blessed by this world, the people of this world were not accepted by this world. At the same time, more people hoped that there would be a guardian deity who truly cared about them, unlike the land of creation and the origin world. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 29:32. All the living beings in the world hoped that there would be someone who could truly make decisions for them, unlike the land of creation and the origin world, who only used them as objects. They used them when they had value and abandoned them when they had no value. However, was there really anyone who could save them now? Facing the invasion of the land of creation, the warriors of the other universes didn't have any power to fight back. Even the world lords were no match for the origin world. In the Nether Child universe, Shao Chun naturally knew about this matter. After all, it was impossible for Shao Chun to not know about such a big commotion. After learning that Little Qing had finally attacked the people of the various universes, Shao Chun's face turned cold. No one knew what he was thinking. Although Shao Chun had expected Little Qing to do this, he still couldn't help but be furious when the matter really blew up. Was this how Little Qing saw all the living beings in the world? Just as Ancestor Mu had said, Little Qing was no different from the primogenitors. The primogenitors had never cared about the lives of all the living beings in the world, and Little Qing was the same. In their eyes, all the living beings in the world were existences that could be used at will. If they had value, they would use them. If they had no value, they would abandon them without any hesitation. Because of this, Little Qing had made such a choice. He wanted to turn the warriors of the other universes into the new warriors of the origin world. It could be said that in Xiao Chen's eyes, little Qing was no different from the other primogenitors. Husband, Qin Shuru and the other women said worriedly when they saw Xiao Chen's cold face. Xiao Chen shook his head slightly, indicating that he was fine. Then, he took a deep breath and said, I want to see Ancestor Mu. See Ancestor Mu? What are you going to do? No, you can't go, Dongfang Yun immediately refused. Although Dongfang Yun didn't know what Xiao Chen was thinking when he suddenly mentioned that he wanted to see Ancestor Mu, he immediately refused. What a joke! Everyone's relationship with the origin world was hostile. If Xiao Chen went to see Ancestor Mu, wouldn't it be the same as walking into a trap? However, Xiao Chen said confidently, Don't worry. He won't attack me now. Perhaps he has been waiting for me for a long time. During this period of time, Ancestor Mu had no intention of attacking him. In every battle, Ancestor Mu could be said to have gone easy on him. It was obvious that he didn't want to defeat him like this. In the beginning, Xiao Chen didn't understand what Ancestor Mu meant. But now, Xiao Chen understood. Ancestor Mu planned to let him and little Qing have a conflict while he sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight. The estrangement between him and little Qing was definitely not a secret to Ancestor Mu. In addition, little Qing's actions during this period of time were even more impossible to hide from Ancestor Mu. In that case, Ancestor Mu had a reason to keep him alive. He wanted to sit back and reap the benefits, so under such circumstances, how could Ancestor Mu possibly attack him? Although Xiao Chen knew that Patriarch Mu was using him to fight little Qing, he had no choice even if he knew. Xiao Chen couldn't ignore the commotion in the place of creation. He couldn't be incompetent and turn a blind eye to it. Don't worry. I'm fine. Let's go together, Dongfang Yun said in response. Dongfang Yun definitely wouldn't agree to let Xiao Chen meet Ancestor Mu alone. Not only her, but even Qin Shuru and the other women wouldn't agree. Although Xiao Chen was helpless, he could only nod and agree. Moreover, in addition to the women, the cultivators of other universes also spoke up. Lord Xiao Chen, we'll go with you. If the origin world dares to attack, we'll fight it out with them. Although they didn't know why Xiao Chen wanted to meet Ancestor Mu, these people still chose to stand firmly on Xiao Chen's side. It was for no other reason than that Xiao Chen was the person they trusted the most. Both the origin world and the land of creation treated them as objects to be used. Only Xiao Chen was sincerely fighting for all living beings. Of course, this was also related to Xiao Chen's identity. Compared to those ancient creatures who were high and mighty when they spoke, people like Xiao Chen, who had reached this height through his own efforts, were naturally easier to accept. After all, Xiao Chen was still a member of all living beings. Moreover, they didn't have anyone to rely on now. They could only rely on Xiao Chen. Looking at the crowd, Xiao Chen didn't say anything. He nodded and the group immediately rushed to the origin world's encampment. Along the way, more and more people gathered. The cultivators who were originally scattered all over the Netherchild universe had all gathered together. There were only 100,000 people left, and they had all chosen to follow Xiao Chen. The group arrived at the origin world's encampment in a grandiose manner. As soon as they appeared, many new cultivators flew out of the encampment. At the same time, Ancestor Mu and Chen Yan also appeared in front of Xiao Chen. Looking at Xiao Chen, Chen Yan shouted coldly, "What? Are you going to walk right into the trap?" Glancing at Chen Yan indifferently, Xiao Chen ignored him. Instead, he looked at Ancestor Mu and said, "I have something to talk to you about." A smile appeared at the corner of Patriarch Mu's mouth, as if he was not surprised at all. Just as Xiao Chen thought, Patriarch Mu had long expected Xiao Chen to return. Given Xiao Chen's personality, it was impossible for him to remain indifferent to what had happened in the place of creation during this period. He would have definitely stepped in to stop it. However, if Shao Chun wanted to stop the origin world, there must be a prerequisite, and that was Ancestor Mu. Shao Chun had to ensure that Ancestor Mu wouldn't stab him in the back while he was taking action. Otherwise, Shao Chun would be attacked from both sides. At that time, he would be doomed eternally. Shao Chun knew this very well, so he had to come to Ancestor Mu. Ancestor Mu had expected this, so he had been waiting for Shao Chun. Now, Shao Chun had come. Looking at the smile on Ancestor Mu's face, Shao Chun definitely didn't feel good, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that coming to Ancestor Mu was undoubtedly asking a tiger for its skin. Moreover, he was willing to be used, but what could he do? Shao Chun didn't have a choice. "Let's find a place to talk," he said indifferently. Hearing this, Ancestor Mu smiled slightly. "Okay." He nodded without hesitation. Then, under everyone's gaze, Shao Chun and Ancestor Mu entered the Origin World's encampment. As for the others, including Chen Yen and Dongfang Yun, they waited outside. The atmosphere was a little tense, but no one had the intention to make a move. After all, Ancestor Mu and Shao Chun were still negotiating. Before the final result, both sides wouldn't make a move. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2933. Shao Chun and Ancestor Mu entered the Origin World's encampment while Dongfang Yun, Chen Yen, and the others stayed outside to confront each other. Although Ancestor Mu and Shao Chun didn't seem to have any intention of attacking, they didn't dare to lower their guard due to the current relationship between them. Shao Chun and Ancestor Mu entered the Origin World's encampment while Dongfang Yun, Chen Yen, and the others stayed outside to confront each other. Although Ancestor Mu and Shao Chun didn't seem to have any intention of attacking, they didn't dare to lower their guard due to the current relationship between them. The others looked as if they were facing a great enemy. On the other hand, Shao Chun and Ancestor Mu sat together calmly. Ancestor Mu even personally made a cup of tea for Shao Chun and said with a smile, "Try it. This is a good tea from my collection." It's indeed good, but Ancestor Mu doesn't seem like a tea drinker. Hearing that, Shao Chun didn't hold back. He wasn't worried about Ancestor Mu's tricks and simply took a sip. It was indeed a good tea. It tasted sweet and fragrant, and it was mixed with dense spirit energy. Obviously, Ancestor Mu's tea was definitely a rare spirit tea. However, from what Shao Chun knew about Ancestor Mu, he didn't seem like a tea drinker. Ancestor Mu didn't care about this. Instead, he laughed loudly and said, "Are you saying that this old man is impatient and doesn't deserve to drink tea?" Among the primogenitors, Ancestor Mu was indeed the most hot-tempered person. Shao Chun could feel this. Seeing this, Shao Chun nodded and admitted it. "Some things seem impossible, but they are. Among us brothers, this old man's temper is indeed the most hot-tempered. However, in terms of the way of tea, this old man is the best. I've loved it for many years. You can't just look at the surface. Just like you and I now, we seem to be enemies, but aren't we still sitting together?" "You have a point," Shao Chun replied with a nod after hearing what Yi Futian said. Patriarch Mu's personality didn't seem like someone who could calm down to drink tea. However, judging from Patriarch Mu's series of actions just now, it wasn't hard to see that he really did understand the way of tea very well, and he really liked tea. However, Shao Chun didn't come here to talk about the way of tea with Ancestor Mu. Hence, he went straight to the point. "Ancestor Mu, you should have guessed the purpose of my visit, right?" "I've guessed a thing or two, but I'd like to hear it from you." If Ancestor Mu hadn't guessed Shao Chun's intentions, he wouldn't have walked with Shao Chun for tea. But even so, Ancestor Mu still hoped to hear it from Shao Chun personally. He smiled faintly and looked at Shao Chun with glowing eyes. In the face of Patriarch Mu's question, Shao Chun replied straightforwardly, "All right, in that case, I'll be frank and honest. This time, I'm mainly here for the land of creation and the heaven and earth spirit. I'd like to hear the details." Ancestor Mu, you should know about the actions of the land of creation. I want to save the people of the various universes. During this period, I hope Ancestor Mu won't suddenly take action behind my back. Shao Chun didn't expect Patriarch Mu to help him. It was fine as long as Patriarch Mu didn't stab him in the back. As for whether Patriarch Mu would use this matter to do something, it wasn't something Shao Chun could control. After saying that, Shao Chun looked at Patriarch Mu calmly and quietly waited for his answer. Are you sure I'll agree? Because you have no reason to refuse. You should also want to see a conflict between me and the land of creation. After all, no matter what the outcome is, it'll be beneficial to your origin world. Plus, as the situation develops, your origin world will have a great chance to fish in troubled waters. Haha, interesting. But aren't you afraid that you'll deal with both of us together? Then, what's the point of everything you've done today? The people you've risked your life to protect will only have the same outcome. I've thought about it, but there's nothing I can do. Plus, I don't have a choice. Shao Chun didn't have any other choice. He could choose to sit and watch, or he could only survive in the cracks. As for the final outcome, no one could say for sure. Seeing Shao Chun's calm face, Patriarch Mu couldn't help but burst into laughter. On the other hand, Shao Chun just quietly drank his tea. After laughing wantonly, Patriarch Mu said with a serious face, "To be honest, before coming to the Netherchild universe, this old man hated you to the core. I swore to tear you apart. But now I find that you're very interesting." Alright, this old man agrees. This old man won't attack you, but if there's a chance, this old man will attack the land of creation. At that time, you can't stop this old man. Otherwise, our agreement will be void. Of course, what Shao Chun wanted was for Patriarch Mu to not attack him during this period. As for whether Patriarch Mu would attack the land of creation, Shao Chun didn't care at all. He even hoped that the land of creation would fight with the origin world. If the origin world and the land of creation fought at this time, Shao Chun's pressure would be reduced a lot. By then, he could save more people. As for what to do after saving these people, Shao Chun hadn't thought about it yet. Moreover, now wasn't the time to talk about it. Patriarch Mu agreed without hesitation. Perhaps this was what he had thought from the beginning. The conversation went smoothly. In the end, Patriarch Mu even said again, "What do you think? Do you want to consider coming to our origin world? You and the land of creation are in conflict now anyway. If I come, can you not create a new world?" Shao Chun didn't answer but asked instead. Patriarch Mu didn't answer. Shao Chun also smiled and said, "Now isn't the time. I want to wait until you and the land of creation have a real result before making a decision." Why? Because at that time, both the origin world and the land of creation won't have the idea of creating a new world. After all, the only threat has been dealt with. What the origin world and the land of creation did was to increase their fighting power. However, if the final result was decided, then both the origin world and the land of creation naturally wouldn't need to do that. Patriarch Mu couldn't help but laugh again when he heard Shao Chun's words. Interesting. This little guy is really interesting. Then, Patriarch Mu teased. However, when you make the choice at that time, you might not have a good ending. After all, icing on the cake and providing charcoal in the snow are completely different. When the dust settles, you know that your role won't be so obvious. It doesn't matter. Power and strength are not important to me now. I just want to do something for the people in this world. After all, I'm also a member of this world. It's fine as long as there's a good result. Haha, good. Then we'll talk about it after the dust settles. If I win at that time, I'll definitely protect your life. Thank you very much. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. Chapter 2934. Shao Chun didn't take Ancestor Mu's words to heart. Who could say for sure what the final result would be? Who could say for sure whether the origin world or the land of creation would win in the end? However, Shao Qin didn't doubt that Ancestor Mu would spare his life when everything was settled. If he could really get rid of Little Qing, then no one in this world would be able to threaten the origin world. At that time, the primogenitors would be the rightful rulers of this world. At that time, would his life still matter to the primogenitors? Moreover, Shao Qin knew that no matter if it was Little Qing or the primogenitors, as long as they could devour the other half, their strength would definitely skyrocket. At that time, they would truly become invincible in this world. Since there was no threat, wouldn't they be able to do whatever they wanted? Of course, this was all in the future. It was too early to talk about it now, so Shao Qin just smiled when he heard this. Ancestor Mu didn't seem to care too much either. After reaching a consensus, Shao Qin and Ancestor Mu walked out of the Origin World's encampment together. Dongfang Yun and the others who had been waiting outside the encampment secretly heaved sighs of relief when they saw that Shao Qin was safe and sound. In front of everyone, Ancestor Mu smiled at Shao Qin and said, "Then I'll help you to succeed." Okay. Shao Qin nodded and didn't say anything else. He immediately led everyone away. After Shao Qin's group left, Chun Yen also came to Ancestor Mu's side. He looked at Ancestor Mu and said with a strange expression, "My lord, are we letting them go just like that?" In Chun Yan's opinion, this was absolutely the best opportunity to kill Shao Qin's group. It was no different from walking into a trap. As long as Ancestor Mu gave the order just now, with the current strength of the origin world, they would absolutely be able to kill Shao Qin's group. However, Ancestor Mu had let Shao Qin go. And from the looks of it, he seemed to be having a good chat with Shao Qin. Although Chun Yen didn't know what the two were talking about, given their current relationship, Chun Yen really couldn't think of anything that could make Ancestor Mu and Shao Qin talk so happily. In response to Chun Yan's doubts, Ancestor Mu was in a good mood as he smiled and said, "I've said it before. Sometimes you don't have to kill someone to be useful. Keeping him alive might be more useful." After saying that, Ancestor Mu turned around and returned to the encampment. Obviously, he had no intention of attacking Shao Qin. Although Chun Yen was depressed, without Ancestor Mu's order, the new cultivators in the origin world would not listen to him. Therefore, Chun Yen could only turn around and leave with a puzzled expression. After the 7 emotions and 6 desires were taken away, the people in the origin world would only listen to the orders of the ancestors. Other than the ancestors, no one else could order them, including the ancient creatures like Chun Yen. Compared to Chun Yan's doubts, after leaving the encampment in the origin world, Dongfang Yun, Qin Shiru Xianyuan Ling, and the others looked at Shao Qin nervously and asked, "How was it?" "It's done. This old man has been waiting for me. He guessed that I would come, so he didn't spend much effort." Ancestor Mu had expected all of this, so the negotiation this time could be said to be very smooth. Although this situation wasn't what Shao Qin wanted to see, there was no other way now. Hearing Shao Qin's answer, everyone's eyes flashed with a touch of relief, but there wasn't the slightest joy. Although the negotiation with Ancestor Mu was a perfect success, it wasn't something to be happy about. This was because Shao Qin and the others were going to fight against the land of creation. In other words, from today onwards, Shao Qin and the others would no longer be protected by the land of creation. Given the current situation, the origin world and the land of creation, these two behemoths, were locked in a fierce battle. It was actually very difficult for Shao Qin and the others to survive in the cracks between the two behemoths. However, if they didn't take action, were they going to watch the land of creation turn the cultivators of the various universes into the new cultivators of the origin world? That was definitely impossible. Shao Qin didn't agree with what the origin world had done back then. Now that the land of creation was doing the same, Shao Qin naturally wouldn't agree. Right now, Shao Qin was like a sheep caught between two ferocious tigers. Although the two ferocious tigers did not seem to have any intention of attacking him, that was because they were busy dealing with each other. The only thing a sheep like Xiao Chun could do was to fight for a sliver of space between the two ferocious tigers. Moreover, he did not know how long this kind of survival would last. Perhaps one day these two ferocious tigers would go crazy and attack him directly. Just as Xiao Chun and Qin Shuru were talking, the world masters of the various universes in the surroundings came to Xiao Chun one after another. The cultivators who had been fighting with Xiao Chun in the Netherchild universe basically came from the four universes. The world masters of these four universes were the strongest experts besides Xiao Chun and the others. At this moment, the four of them suddenly appeared. One of them, a middle-aged man, asked in a deep voice, "Lord Xiao Chun, is it really worth it for you to do this? Once you take action, there will be no turning back. What about you? Are you willing to watch your family and friends become walking corpses without lust?" Knowing what this person meant, Xiao Chun asked instead of answering. Hearing this, the middle-aged man said seriously, "We are different because this is our own business. Even if we die, we will have no complaint. However, Lord Xiao Chun, you don't have to get involved." They were the world masters of these universes, but Xiao Chun had already surpassed the level of a world master and reached the realm of an ancient creature. Moreover, with the relationship between Xiao Chun and Little Qing, as long as Xiao Chun chose to stand by and do nothing, Little Qing would not attack Xiao Chun. Under such circumstances, if they asked themselves honestly if they were in Xiao Chun's shoes, they would probably choose to protect themselves. After all, humans were like this. No matter what happened, they would always put themselves, their families, and the people around them as the center. Knowing what this person meant, Xiao Chun smiled and said, "When the nest is overturned, no egg will remain intact. Moreover, don't forget that I am also a lifelong member of this universe. There is no reason for me to stand by and do nothing. My lord, from now on, our lives are yours." Hearing this, the four world masters bowed respectfully and said in a firm tone, "The origin world and the land of creation treated all living beings as chess pieces, but Xiao Chun had never thought this way. From the beginning to the end, he had always regarded himself as a member of the living beings of this universe. He was not like the primogenitors and Little Qing, who were like high and mighty gods, begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." Chapter 29:35. Xiao Chun and the others could be said to be ancient life forms that truly stood on the side of the world because, unlike other ancient life forms, Xiao Chun and the others stood out from the rest of the world. Therefore, fundamentally, Xiao Chun was different from other ancient life forms. Xiao Chun didn't say much after hearing the words of these world lords because it was meaningless to say anything at the moment. Xiao Chun directly took out a voice transmission talisman and sent a message to Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, Mo He, and the others. "You can start now." Xiao Chun naturally wouldn't act alone. He had already discussed with Lin Yun and the others. While Xiao Chun was negotiating with Patriarch Mu, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, and the others were also negotiating with other primogenitors, and the results could be said to be poles apart. The primogenitors had obviously communicated with each other before, so they didn't stop Xiao Chun and the others at all. Instead, they were very cooperative. Obviously, the primogenitors were happy to see some trouble for the land of creation. Soon, Xiao Chun received the message. Lin Yun and the others were also prepared. For a time, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, and the others also led people and rushed to the rear. The Nether Child universe was directly handed over to Ancestor Mu. This was something that could not be helped. Since the decision had been made, there would definitely be losses, and the Nether Child universe was one of the losses. Moreover, for the current Xiao Chun, there was no longer any meaning in defending the Netherchild universe to the death. This was because defending the Netherchild universe to the death was for the peace of the rear. But now, the actions of the land of creation in the rear had really angered Xiao Chen and the others. Since little Qing wanted to do the same thing as the primogenitors and turn the world into walking corpses without emotions and desires, then what was the point of Xiao Chen defending the Netherchild universe to the death? In that case, it was better to just let it go. On one hand, he wanted to save the people of the various universes. On the other hand, Xiao Chen said to Dongfang Yun, "Be careful when you sneak into the land of creation." Xiao Chen and Dongfang Yun decided to split up. Dongfang Yun would secretly head to the land of creation and rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. After he succeeded, he would immediately leave and head to the prearranged meeting place. In the current situation, Xiao Chen naturally could not leave his family in little Qing's hands. Therefore, it was necessary for him to rescue his family. In response, Dongfang Yun nodded solemnly. After the group left the Netherchild universe, Dongfang Yun left with his subordinate. Dongfang Yun did not bring many people, but all of them were world lords. Seeing Dongfang Yun leave, Xiao Chen continued to rush forward with a cold expression. At this time, Xiao Chen was going to meet up with Lin Yun and the others. On the other side, in the land of creation, little Qing naturally noticed the movements of Xiao Chen and the others. Her expression was gloomy as she said coldly, "Are you determined to go against me?" Previously, little Qing received news that Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others went back to find the primogenitors and had a secret conversation. Although she did not know what was said, from the actions of Xiao Chen and the others, it was obvious that they had reached some consensus. It was not difficult for little Qing to guess where this consensus came from. It was obvious that they wanted to become enemies with the land of creation. Regarding the recent actions of the land of creation, Xiao Chen and the others finally chose to resist and did not choose to submit. "My lord, perhaps Xiao Chen and the others are just being impulsive." Seeing little Qing's unfriendly expression, the beast slave, Shi Song, and the others at the side advised. As two people who had a good relationship with Xiao Chen, they naturally did not want to see Xiao Chen become enemies with the land of creation. They were even more unwilling to see Xiao Chen die because of this. After all, with Xiao Chen and the others' strength, it was obvious that they could not compete with the land of creation. Hearing this, little Qing said with a gloomy expression, "Being impulsive? Then go and tell him that he better think carefully before making a decision. My patience is limited. I will give him one last chance to make a choice. Don't regret it." After saying that, little Qing directly disappeared from the spot. The beast slave and Shi Song looked at each other and quickly left. From little Qing's words, if Xiao Chen turned back now, then everything would still be not too late. However, if Xiao Chen still stubbornly persisted, then he would be forcing little Qing to take action. At that time, the land of creation would definitely not tolerate Xiao Chen and the others. Even if Xiao Chen and the others were ancient life forms, little Qing would still directly kill them. The beast slave and Shi Song hurriedly rushed towards Xiao Chen, wanting to persuade Xiao Chen to stop at the brink of the cliff. At the same time, after Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, Mo He, and the others gathered, they also chose to take action immediately. They entered one of the universes and launched a rescue mission. Xiao Chen and the others' rescue mission was, on the one hand, to defeat the people in the land of creation. On the other hand, it was to directly transfer the cultivators of the various universes away from their sight. Right now, they definitely couldn't stay here because they were too close to the land of creation. They could only transfer away from here. They had just finished a battle and defeated a group of life forms in the land of creation. Just as Xiao Chen and the others were busy transferring everyone, the beast slave and Shi Song hurriedly rushed over. Seeing Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others who had already taken action, the beast slave said with a complicated expression, "Stop, Xiao Chen. Why? Are you here to stop me?" Hearing this, Xiao Chen didn't have the slightest intention of stopping. Instead, he sneered. At the same time, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, and the others also came to Xiao Chen's side one after another. Although they didn't say anything, they clearly expressed their stance. Seeing the determination in Xiao Chen's eyes, the beast slave was helpless. Song also said with a bitter smile, "Xiao Chen, you should know that doing this is meaningless and it will definitely not succeed in the end. Do you really think that you can compete with the land of creation and the world's spirit with just this little power? You should know the strength of the land of creation without me telling you." Xiao Chen, stop. You know that you will fail, so why are you still so stubborn? It's not too late to stop now. Song was also advising earnestly. However, in this regard, Xiao Chen directly replied without hesitation. I'm different from you. You were born high and mighty, but I was born in a lowly place. Although I've now become an ancient life form, I'm still a member of the world. I can't do the same thing as you. As the saying goes, those who walk different paths can't make plans together. Since we're just chess pieces in the eyes of those big shots, then we have to resist. Even if we know that we'll fail, we won't give in. Speaking of this, Xiao Chen paused and looked deeply at the beast slave and Mu Lingxian. He gritted his teeth and continued, "If the two of you are here to stop me, then do it. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." Chapter 29:36. If you two are here to stop me, then do it, Xiao Chen said coldly. Hearing this, the beast slave and Song's expressions became very complicated. From the bottom of their hearts, they certainly didn't want to be Xiao Chen's enemy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come here. However, looking at Xiao Chen's current appearance, it was obvious that he wouldn't back down. The beast slave and Song had already thought of this. If there was still a possibility of backing down, Xiao Chen wouldn't have come to this step. The land of creation and Little Qing's actions had already touched Xiao Chen's bottom line. It could even be said that they had completely violated Xiao Chen's original intentions. However, looking at Xiao Chen, the beast slave said, "Xiao Chen, do you know the consequences of doing this? You are going against the land of creation. Even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for your children." Now, the only thing that Xiao Chen had scruples about was Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. The beast slave knew that Xiao Chen valued his family very much. Therefore, the beast slave could only start from this aspect. However, Xiao Chen had already thought of this. Moreover, Dongfang Yun was already waiting for an opportunity to move and rescue Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others. Therefore, after hearing the beast slave's words, Xiao Chen didn't think much and directly spoke. How can the children of Xiao Chen be afraid of death? Beast slave, you don't need to say anything. If you want me to stop, I can. The land of creation also has to stop its actions against the other universes. This was the most basic bottom line. If the land of creation was still the same as the origin world, Xiao Chen would absolutely not stand on the same side as the land of creation. Hearing this, the beast slave chose to remain silent. It was obviously impossible for Xiao Qing to stop all of this. This was something that Xiao Qing had already decided on long ago. Even the beast slave couldn't stop her. Moreover, if Xiao Chen wasn't willing to take a step back, would Xiao Qing be willing to take a step back? The difficulty of getting Little Qing to back down was definitely not any less than Xiao Chen. Moreover, from Little Qing's previous attitude, it was not difficult to see that she already had the intention to kill Xiao Chen and the others. Xiao Chen, you clearly know that this is impossible. After a moment of silence, the beast slave slowly opened his mouth and said, "It was indeed impossible to make Little Qing give in." Xiao Chen did not say anything about this. While the two sides were confronting each other, the martialists of the various universes were constantly being transferred away. For this reason, Xiao Chen had specially opened a spatial passage to allow the martialists of the various universes to be transferred away smoothly. Alright, if you want to fight, then fight. If you don't, then leave. Neither side could convince the other, so Xiao Chen did not continue speaking. Instead, he directly ordered them to leave. However, as soon as Shao Chun finished speaking, several terrifying presences appeared in the sky. Very soon, spatial cracks formed one after another. The natives of the land of creation, such as the old tree and other ancient voices, walked out of the spatial passage. At the same time, Little Qing's figure appeared before everyone. The sudden arrival of Little Qing with a group of experts naturally caused the beast slave and Sure Song's expressions to change drastically. The two of them knew very well what Little Qing's appearance here meant. Little Qing had obviously not come here to chat. As a matter of fact, Little Qing's gaze fell directly on Shao Chen as soon as she appeared. Her eyes no longer had the usual calmness in them. On the contrary, they had become extremely cold. Her tone was icy as well. Shao Chen, do you really want to go against me? The land of creation is no longer the land of creation I know. This is my decision. It's also the only way to defeat the origin world. Every war has a price. You should know that. I know, but it's not a price. It's a matter of belief. If I agree with you, then what's the point of me rebelling against the origin world? I can just rely on the origin world. Little Qing's face turned completely cold as the two of them conversed. What does Shao Chen mean? Is he determined to go against the land of creation? Is he going against me, the spirit of the world? As the spirit of the world, Little Qing would not allow anyone in the world to rebel against her. Not the primogenitors, not Shao Chen. The reason why Little Qing insisted on destroying the origin world and the primogenitors was because the primogenitors were a threat to her and had tried to rebel against her. Therefore, Little Qing had to destroy them at all costs. Now, Shao Chen also wanted to rebel against her, so he could only face the fate of being destroyed. He didn't expect Little Qing to come so quickly. Moreover, it seemed like she had made up her mind. However, Shao Chen didn't have much regret in his heart. When he had made this decision, Shao Chen had already thought of everything. It was only a matter of time before he confronted Little Qing. He couldn't escape. The two of them looked at each other. Neither of them had any intention of retreating. Little Qing's gaze swept over Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, and the others. Her face turned colder and colder. In the end, Little Qing said coldly, "Is this the final answer you're going to give me?" "Yes." "Good, very good. Shao Chen, Lin Yun, if I can make you, I can also destroy you. Since you want to die, don't blame me." As soon as these words came out, there was no doubt that Little Qing wanted to kill Shao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others. Since Shao Chen's group had contacted the primogenitors without permission and even formed some kind of cooperation, the primogenitors still didn't choose to attack them even after Shao Chen's group had given up on the Netherchild universe. Little Qing wasn't stupid enough to think that it was the primogenitors' problem. The reason those old fellas didn't attack was definitely because of Shao Chen's group. Otherwise, those old fellas wouldn't have let go of such an opportunity. However, this undoubtedly touched Little Qing's bottom line. In addition, Shao Chen was now determined to become enemies with the land of creation. He even kept moving the martialists of various universes in front of Little Qing. This made Little Qing's killing intent explode. Since Shao Chen didn't have the slightest intention of turning back, Little Qing could only kill them. Anyone who stood in her way must not be allowed to live. Upon hearing this, Shao Chen didn't answer and just stared coldly at Little Qing. He had already thought of all this. Little Qing also shouted coldly under Shao Chen's gaze, "Kill them!" Upon hearing Shao Qing's order, the old tree and other native creatures of the land of creation, as well as other ancient creatures, moved one after another. Only the beast slave and Sure Song were still standing on the spot. The others didn't have any deep friendship with Shao Chen, so since Little Qing had given the order, they naturally had to carry it out. As for the beast slave and Sure Song, they were very conflicted and didn't know how to choose at all. Please add, vote, recommend. The error-free chapters of Sword Master Vast Expanse will continue to be updated. There are no advertisements on the website. Please add and recommend the Sword Master Vast Expanse. If you like Sword Master Vast Expanse, please add. Sword Master Vast Expanse is the fastest to update in the Sword Master Vast Expanse. Chapter 29:37. Following Little Qing's order, Old Tree, the Patriarch of the Stone Spirit Clan, the Patriarch of the Fire Spirit Clan, and the other experts all charged towards Xiao Chen's group. Although these people had some friendship with Xiao Chen's group when they were in the creation ground, they had no choice but to obey Little Qing's order. Xiao Chen faced off against the Old Tree, the clan leader of the Stone Spirit Clan, and the Wood Spirit Clan. All three of them were close friends with Xiao Chen, but at that very moment they had all become enemies. To be honest, whether it was Xiao Chen, Wood Spirit, or Old Tree, none of them wanted to be enemies with each other. They should have been friends, but there was no other way. On one side was Xiao Chen, who would never give in, and on the other side was Old Tree and the others who would never disobey Little Qing's order. Xiao Chen, what you're doing is meaningless. As the saying goes, without destruction, there can be no construction. All of this is for the final victory. Wood Spirit obviously knew what Xiao Chen was thinking, so she went straight to the point. Although the four of them had already fought, Wood Spirit still hoped that Xiao Chen could change his mind. As long as Xiao Chen was willing to lower his head, Wood Spirit and the others would definitely beg Little Qing to forgive them. Even if Xiao Chen didn't participate in the battle against the Origin World, things wouldn't end up like this. She really didn't want to attack her former friends. However, facing Wood Spirit's persuasion, Xiao Chen smiled bitterly. There are some things that can be compromised, but there are some things that can't be done. Besides, is there any leeway in this matter? There is. As long as you lower your head, Brother Xiao Chen, we will definitely risk our lives to save your life, said the Patriarch of the Stone Spirit Clan. The Patriarch of the Stone Spirit Clan, who had the most straightforward personality, was the most agitated at this moment. He didn't want to be enemies with Xiao Chen, so he naturally hoped that Xiao Chen would stop in time. As long as Xiao Chen lowered his head, he would risk his life to save Xiao Chen's life. Xiao Chen would be lying if he said that he didn't dare to touch the three patriarchs of the Stone Spirit Clan. He could see that the three of them were sincere towards him. However, he really couldn't lower his head. Or rather, it was impossible for him to lower his head. As the saying goes, those who walk different paths cannot make plans together. At this moment, the conviction in Xiao Chen's heart had completely collapsed. There's no need to talk nonsense. Everyone has their own masters. Let's go all out. It was useless to say anything. There was no way to resolve this matter. Hearing this, the three of them felt helpless. However, Xiao Chen had already attacked with his full strength. Facing Xiao Chen, who had unleashed his full strength, the three of them could only retaliate. It was 1 against 3. Furthermore, Mu Ling and the other two were all very powerful. To put it bluntly, they were not weaker than an ancient life form like Chen Yan. Hence, Xiao Chen was unable to gain any advantage under the combined attacks of the three. However, Mu Ling and the other two clearly didn't have any killing intent. Thus, Xiao Chen didn't feel much pressure for the time being. The four of them seemed to be engaged in an intense battle, but they were actually restraining themselves, including Xiao Chen. All of this was naturally noticed by Little Qing. Her expression became more and more unsightly as she stared fixedly at Xiao Chen's group. Compared to Lin Yun's group, Little Qing was clearly more concerned about Xiao Chen. She could tell with a single glance that Mu Ling and the other two were going easy on Xiao Chen. Otherwise, with their combined strength, even if they couldn't take down Xiao Chen directly, it was absolutely impossible for them to end up in such a situation. From the looks of it, Xiao Chen wasn't under much pressure at all. He was able to exchange blows with Mu Ling and the other two. If Mu Ling and the other two had gone all out, how could such a situation have occurred? Cold light constantly converged in her eyes. To be honest, Little Qing really thought highly of Xiao Chen. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen didn't stand on her side in the end. Little Qing had never felt that she was in the wrong. Wasn't defeating the origin world and taking down all the primogenitors her ultimate goal? So what if she lost a few people in order to achieve this goal? Moreover, this world was insignificant to begin with. Even if all of them died, she could still create new living beings with her identity as the spirit of the world. Why would Xiao Chen part ways with him just because of such a small matter and run away from him? Could it be that she was inferior to those inferior living beings in Xiao Chen's heart? Xiao Chen had actually abandoned her because of those ant-like fellows. This was what made Little Qing the most furious. At the same time, this was the most contradictory point between Xiao Chen and Little Qing. In Little Qing's eyes, all living beings in the world were a group of despicable fellows, pawns. So long as they were useful, Little Qing didn't care about their lives at all. She even felt that it was their honor to be able to be used by her. After all, she was the spirit of the world, and she represented this world. She was their creator, and she had created everything in this world. However, Xiao Chen did not think that way. He had risen from nothing and was one of the many beings in the world. Xiao Chen had never treated the beings in the world as pawns, let alone as ants. This was the most fundamental difference between Xiao Chen and Little Qing, and it was also the reason why they couldn't reconcile at all. Little Qing's gaze grew colder and colder. The killing intent in her eyes grew denser when she saw that the three primogenitors were unable to take down Xiao Chen. She didn't seem to have made any movements, but her figure instantly vanished on the spot. When she appeared again, she was already in front of Xiao Chen. Little Qing didn't give the four of them any time to react. She had already struck Xiao Chen with her palm. Since he was completely caught off guard, Xiao Chen was directly sent flying. He was instantly sent flying and crashed into the ground below. With a loud bang, the ground was torn apart and dust rose. Xiao Chen's figure was instantly devoured by Yang Chen. My lord! The sudden attack of the spirit of the world had severely injured Xiao Chen with a single blow. This also stunned Old Tree, the Stone Spirit Patriarch, and the Wood Spirit Patriarch. They all looked at Little Qing with complicated expressions. Under the gazes of the three of them, Little Qing said coldly, I told you to kill them, not to put on a show for me. This is the first and last time. I don't want anyone to disobey my orders again. Little Qing's words were clearly filled with dissatisfaction towards the three primogenitors. From the beginning to the end, the three primogenitors hadn't used their full strength. Little Qing had seen it all. She had already given the order to kill Xiao Chen and the others, but the three primogenitors still went easy on them. This made Little Qing, who was already irritated, even more displeased. In response, the three primogenitors naturally nodded in fear and trepidation. What a joke! They didn't dare to have the slightest thought of disobeying Little Qing. Remember, they are no longer people of the place where I was created. You all need to be clear of your position and treat your enemies well. I do not wish for such a thing to happen again. Little Qing coldly snorted and said, Please add this to your collection, monthly votes and recommendations. Chapter 2938. Little Qing's sudden attack made Xiao Chen unable to fight back at all. He was severely injured in one hit. Faced with Little Qing's angry roar, Old Tree and Wood Spirit remained silent. The three of them had not tried to kill Xiao Chen, but now it seemed that Little Qing had run out of patience. Little Qing's sudden attack made Xiao Chen unable to fight back at all. He was severely injured in one hit. Faced with Little Qing's angry roar, Old Tree and Wood Spirit remained silent. The three of them had not tried to kill Xiao Chen, but now it seemed that Little Qing had run out of patience. Although Little Qing thought highly of Xiao Chen and had a good relationship with Xiao Chen in the past, this did not mean that Xiao Chen could challenge Little Qing's bottom line without any scruples. Xiao Qing looked coldly at the place where Xiao Chen had fallen as soon as she finished speaking. As the dust slowly dissipated, Xiao Chen's figure gradually appeared in front of everyone. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and he was also staring coldly at Xiao Qing. The two of them looked at each other. Xiao Chen was not surprised by Little Qing's sudden attack. This was within his expectations. Ever since he had attacked, Xiao Chen understood that he had completely fallen out with the land of creation. Xiao Chen, I'll ask you one last time. Live or die, it's your choice, Little Qing said to Xiao Chen with a cold gaze and an indifferent tone. Attacking the various universes was an established fact. Little Qing had to do it so early. If Xiao Chen was willing to stop before it was too late, Little Qing might let Xiao Chen go this time. However, Xiao Chen shook his head and refused without hesitation. Do you think there's a way back now? Xiao Chen had no intention of changing his mind at all. Since he had already made up his mind, he would not turn back. Seeing this, Little Qing's face darkened. She then pointed her finger, and the cyan light instantly went straight for Xiao Chen. Dense killing intent completely enveloped Xiao Chen. Clearly, Little Qing's attack was aimed at killing Xiao Chen. Faced with Little Qing's attack, Xiao Chen wanted to fight back with all his might. However, even though he was an ancient life form, Xiao Chen still felt powerless against Little Qing. Just as Little Qing had said, since he could make Xiao Chen and the others, he could naturally destroy them. Ancient life forms were nothing in front of Little Qing. It should be known that even the primogenitors were no match for Little Qing in a one-on-one situation, let alone an ancient life form like Xiao Chen. The green light flashed. Xiao Chen looked at Little Qing's attack with burning eyes. However, just as the green light was about to hit him, a figure suddenly blocked the attack for Xiao Chen. He did not know who they were, but they possessed progenitor realm cultivation. It seemed like they were martialists from various universes. This person stood in front of Xiao Chen without hesitation and blocked the sure-kill attack for Xiao Chen. Naturally, his fate was self-evident. He was killed by Little Qing's attack. Lord Xiao Chen, live on, the progenitor realm expert said before he died. Facing the origin world, facing the land of creation, the experts from various universes felt that they were just objects to be used in the eyes of these great figures. Only Xiao Chen and the others truly stood on the side of the world. Unlike the primogenitors and Little Qing, Xiao Chen and the others had never treated the world as pawns. They had never thought of using the world to achieve any goals. Therefore, in the eyes of the martialists from various universes, Xiao Chen and the others were the people they could truly rely on. This time, facing the persecution of the land of creation, only Xiao Chen and the others dared to truly stand up and provide protection for them. It could be said that Xiao Chen was the only person they could rely on. Therefore, when he saw Little Qing attack Xiao Chen, the progenitor realm expert did not hesitate to die for Xiao Chen. He was not the only one. At the same time, more and more people came in front of Xiao Chen as if they were protecting Xiao Chen. They protected Xiao Chen firmly in the middle. These people's cultivation bases were not high. To Little Qing, they were indeed like ants. But now, they stood in front of Xiao Chen without hesitation in order to protect Xiao Chen. Looking at everyone's actions, Xiao Chen was taken aback. At the same time, Xiao Chen clearly felt that an inexplicable power was constantly gathering from everyone's bodies toward him. Not only Xiao Chen, but Lin Yun, Dongfang Yun, Mauve, and the others were the same. The mysterious power in everyone's bodies gradually gathered and merged into their bodies. With the appearance of this power, Xiao Chen clearly felt that his strength was increasing crazily. And this power was not spiritual power. There was an obvious difference between it and spiritual power. Little Qing clearly also noticed this. She felt that Xiao Chen's aura was constantly rising. Little Qing's expression sank slightly. The power of faith. She didn't expect the people of the various universes to erupt with the power of faith at this moment. The so-called power of faith was the power that erupted from the faith in one's heart. In order to reach the level of faith power, one must be sincere. Furthermore, one must deeply believe in the faith power without the slightest doubt. To put it bluntly, in the minds of these people, they had already deeply regarded Xiao Chen's group as godlike existences. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to erupt with the power of faith. And once the power of faith appeared, it was definitely a great opportunity for Xiao Chen's group. It wasn't difficult to see this from the rising aura of Xiao Chen's group. With the help of the power of faith, the aura of Xiao Chen's group was rising crazily. She didn't expect such an unforeseen event to happen. A group of ants actually gave birth to the power of faith and even regarded Xiao Chen's group as godlike existences. Damn it! In the face of such a situation, even little Qing couldn't help but curse. The appearance of the power of faith really caught her off guard for a moment. Not only little Qing, but the old tree, the wood spirit, the beast slave, and the others were also in a daze. The sudden appearance of the power of faith had caught everyone off guard. How is this possible? How can the power of faith appear? The old tree said in disbelief. One had to know that even little Qing, the spirit of the world, had never received the power of faith from the beings of the world. Although the beings of the world instinctively chose to be respectful and submit to the spirit of the world, they didn't really regard little Qing as a godlike existence from the bottom of their hearts. But now, for Xiao Chen and the others, all the people in the world burst with the power of faith, which meant that Xiao Chen and the others had the power of all the people in the world. With so many people, although they looked as weak as ants individually, the power of so many people added together was absolutely not to be ignored. The power was so great that it was enough to make people blush with shame. When streams gathered together, they could also form a vast ocean. Please collect, monthly vote recommend. Chapter 2939. Even little Qing could not sit still as she watched the endless power of faith flow into the bodies of Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others. After all, this was the power of hundreds of billions of people. Even little Qing could not sit still as she watched the endless power of faith flow into the bodies of Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others. After all, this was the power of hundreds of billions of people. These powers might seem weak individually, but what if they were all gathered in one person's body? That would be completely different. It was obvious that there would be a qualitative change. As expected, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were the first to complete the transformation under the dense power of faith. Their auras quickly broke through the level of ancient life forms and reached the level of primogenitors. They broke through. The old tree, the patriarch of the Stone Spirit clan, and the others all said in disbelief as they watched the scene unfold. Ancient life forms could be said to be the highest level of existence, but now, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun had broken through this level and reached the level of primogenitors. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Xiao Chen and Lin Yun to break through to the level of ancient life forms. Even back then, it was because of little Qing's help that they reached the level of ancient life forms. Without little Qing, Xiao Chen and the others would not have been able to reach this level. But now, the two of them had broken through to the level of ancient life forms. This was the terror of the power of faith. Because the warriors of the various universes and the living beings of the universe really regarded Xiao Chen and the others as saviors, godlike existences, they erupted with the power of faith. Under the influence of the power of faith, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun completed the transformation and successfully broke through to a whole new level. The power of faith did not come from the world, but from the many living beings. It could be said that even little Qing and the other primogenitors did not have this power. Little Qing and the other primogenitors' power came from the blessings of heaven and earth, while Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's power came from all living beings. It had nothing to do with heaven and earth. Therefore, with the breakthrough of Xiao Chen and Lin Yun, although there was a strong heavenly might in the sky, there was no heavenly punishment. The appearance of heaven's wrath meant that Shao Qun and Lin Yun's actions had incurred the wrath of heaven and earth. They had seriously violated the rules of heaven and earth. Heaven and earth wanted to kill these two people, but there was no heaven's punishment. This meant that the rules of heaven and earth could no longer do anything to Shao Qun and Lin Yun. After all, Shao Qun and Lin Yun's powers were not bestowed by the heavens and earth. Therefore, even if the two of them seriously violated the rules of the heavens and earth and caused a strong threat to the heavens and earth could do nothing about it. The heavenly punishment could no longer do anything to the two of them. Little Qing's expression became more and more ugly. She had never thought that at this critical moment, the living beings of heaven and earth would erupt with the power of faith and allow Shao Qun and Lin Yun to successfully break through. It wasn't just Shao Qun and Lin Yun. Looking at Emohi, Dongfang Yun and Ancestor He, they were not far from breaking through. Once they broke through to the primogenitor realm, they would definitely be a great threat to the land of creation. Little Qing couldn't help but curse inwardly. She had never thought that things would develop to this point. As for Shao Qun and Lin Yun, as the real parties involved, they were both surprised and happy about the increase in their power. Their eyes flashed with a responsible light. To be honest, this was the first time Shao Qun felt such power. It was very strong, ridiculously strong. Moreover, it was completely different from the power he had encountered before. It was a world of difference. However, this kind of power, after entering his body, he didn't even need to refine it. It naturally turned into his own power. It was as if he was very familiar with this power. The two were originally one and were extremely compatible with him. There was no feeling of rejection. Shao Qun couldn't help but clench his fists in excitement. With this kind of power, Shao Qun wouldn't be as helpless as before when he faced Little Qing. At this moment, he already possessed power that wasn't weaker than Ancestor Mu and the other primogenitors. He truly had the qualifications to protect the living beings of heaven and earth. Thinking of this, Shao Qun also rose into the air with a calm expression. At the same time, on the other side, the few ancient creatures that were fighting Lin Yun were also sent flying by Lin Yun. Their faces were filled with shock. Lin Yun, who had been suppressed, suddenly erupted with such terrifying power. These ancient creatures didn't expect this at all. After being sent flying, Lin Yun came to Shao Qun. The two of them stood side by side and looked at Little Qing calmly. Shao Qun spoke first. "This is the power given to me by the living beings. They need me to protect them. Therefore, I, Shao Qun, will protect this world forever." That power came from all living beings, and Shao Qun's words were like an oath to all living beings. Since he had received such great power from all living beings, then he had to use that power to protect all living beings. Since the primogenitors and the spirits of heaven and earth couldn't become the protectors of the living beings and could only treat them as chess pieces, then he would become the protector of the living beings. He would protect them from being slaughtered by others and not be slaughtered like an unending chain. As Shao Qun finished speaking, Dongfang Yun, Emohi, and Ancestor He also surpassed the limits of the ancient creatures and reached the level of primogenitors. However, their presences were clearly weaker than Shao Qun and Lin Yun. Moreover, after the three of them broke through, Shao Qun and Lin Yun's presences were still rising. Shao Qun and Lin Yun had absorbed the most power of faith. Their strength should be between the primogenitors and Little Qing. They were slightly stronger than the primogenitors, but slightly weaker than Little Qing. Faced with this outcome, Little Qing's face was extremely gloomy. A person who should have been viewed as an ant had suddenly transformed into an existence that could threaten her. All of this had happened in an instant. How could Little Qing accept this? Especially after hearing Shao Qun's words, Little Qing was even more furious. What was the meaning of this? The primogenitors hadn't been dealt with yet, and now there was another group of existences that wanted to resist her? people who wanted to transcend the control of heaven and earth? Moreover, Shao Chun and the others did indeed have the ability to do so. They had already become a huge problem for her. Damn it, Shao Chun, do you think you can become my enemy just because of this? Whether I can or not, I, Shao Chun, swear that from today onwards, I will be the protector of the living beings. Even if heaven and earth wants to torture the living beings, I, Shao Chun, will not agree. If I'm unwilling, then I will fight to the death. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2940. Shao Chen's words were like an oath that resonated between heaven and earth. After absorbing the power of all living beings, Shao Chun seemed to feel the desire of all living beings. The desire to live in peace and to live on. It was so real that Shao Chun really wanted to become the guardian of all living beings. No matter what, he wanted to protect the peace of all living beings. He would no longer allow the people to be treated like ants or tools by the spirit of the heavens and earth and the primogenitors like before. As soon as Shao Chun finished speaking, the last of the power of faith drilled into his body in a frenzy. Their strength was completely different from before. Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others had all reached the level of primogenitor under the infusion of the power of all living beings. Even little Qing couldn't underestimate this level of existence, because it was indeed enough to threaten little Qing. Little Qing stared gloomily at Shao Chun and the others and said coldly, "You want to be the guardian of all living beings? Let's see if you have the ability to do so." After saying that, a towering aura erupted from little Qing's body, and she charged directly at Shao Chun. Seeing this, Shao Chun and the others naturally wouldn't allow themselves to be captured without putting up a fight. Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and Mo he immediately attacked and fought with Shao Qing. If it were the previous Shao Chun and the other two, they probably wouldn't have the ability to fight back against little Qing. However, it was different now. The three of them now possessed the strength of a primogenitor. Even in front of little Qing, they didn't show any signs of weakness. After fighting with the three of them, little Qing realized that the three of them weren't any weaker than the primogenitors. In particular, Shao Chun and Lin Yun. If Mo He's strength was comparable to the primogenitors, then Shao Chun and Lin Yun's strength obviously surpassed the primogenitors. They surpassed the primogenitors and were comparable to little Qing. This made little Qing even more furious. What was this? Was this a rebellion against him, the spirit of the heavens? Little Qing didn't allow any resistance to exist. But now, after a fierce battle, little Qing didn't have the slightest advantage against Shao Chun and the other two. Not to mention defeating him, he didn't even have much of an advantage. As for Ancestor He, he was currently engaged in an intense battle with the ancient living beings like the old tree. Ancestor He also displayed his terrifying strength when dealing with several ancient life forms by himself. This was the power given to them by all living beings. Amidst the fierce battle, Shao Chun did not forget to say to the others, "Continue to move." The great beings from the various universes were continuously gathering. Secondly, Shao Chen's purpose was to move them away from this place so that they would not continue to be poisoned by the land of creation. Now that Shao Chun truly possessed the pinnacle of power in the world, Shao Chen's thoughts naturally changed. Since he had the strength, why would he still want to live under someone else's roof? In the past, he could only choose the land of creation because he wanted to fight against the origin world. Then, after the estrangement between him and little Qing, Shao Chun could only survive in the gap between the land of creation and the origin world. But now everything was different. He had the strength to fight against the land of creation and the origin world. Since that was the case, he didn't have to worry about these things anymore. Shao Chun wanted to give all living beings a true home. He wanted to create a new world while being chased by the land of creation and the origin world. A world formed by the will of all living beings. This was the opposite of Shao Chen's current situation. Therefore, Shao Chen stopped Little Qing and said to everyone, he would take everyone away from here and then choose a place to create a true world. He would be responsible for protecting the safety of this world. Whether it was the origin world or the land of creation, nothing could stop him. As long as he had the strength, he could protect what he wanted to protect. After hearing Shao Chen's words, everyone started to take action and rushed into the spatial tunnel. Looking at this scene, although Little Qing was furious, she couldn't stop them at all. Faced with Shao Chen, Lin Yun, and Helmut Mo, Little Qing found it difficult to break through their blockade for the time being. They could only watch helplessly as the people of the various great cosmoses left through the spatial passageway. She cursed in her heart. At the same time, the primogenitors in the Netherchild universe and the other universes naturally noticed the changes in Shao Chen and the others. At this moment, in the Netherchild universe, outside the origin world's garrison, Ancestor Mu stood alone on the deck of the spatial spirit ship. His eyes flickered with a complicated light as he looked in the direction of Shao Chen and Little Qing. Ancestor Mu could clearly feel that there were waves of intense battle aftereffects coming from that direction. Such battle aftereffects made even his heart palpitate. These were definitely not battle aftereffects that an ancient creature could have. It was obviously a battle between Little Qing and others. However, putting aside Little Qing as a world spirit, it wasn't strange for him to have such battle strength. What was strange was the person fighting Little Qing. Ancestor Mu, who had long noticed the transformation of Shao Chen and the others, said faintly, "The power of living beings?" He had never thought that Shao Chen and the others would suddenly obtain the power of living beings. It was because of the power of living beings that Shao Chen and the others' strength had advanced by leaps and bounds and completed a qualitative change. They now had the ability to compete with Little Qing. Now, Shao Chen and the others weren't afraid of Little Qing at all. It could even be said that they weren't afraid of the origin world. In other words, Shao Chen and the others also had the confidence to not be afraid of the origin world. Originally, it should have been a situation of two tigers fighting each other. However, with the transformation of Shao Chen and the others, it was slowly developing in the direction of a tripartite confrontation. The tripartite confrontation made the originally chaotic situation even more difficult to control because no matter which side it was, they had to deal with the other two sides. Ancestor Mu, do you think the world spirits can stop them? At this moment, Chen Yen asked from the side. The battle aftereffects made even Ancestor Mu's heart palpitate, let alone an ancient creature like Chen Yen. Facing the battle aftereffects of such a level, Chen Yen couldn't even think of resisting. The gap was too big. At the same time, Chen Yen was a little panicked by such a change. Who would have thought that this world could give birth to existences that were comparable to the primogenitors and the world spirit? They relied on the power of living beings. Could the world spirits really erupt with such power? Ancestor Mu only said faintly in response to Chen Yan's question. A storm is coming. Everything will have to start from the beginning. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2941. Ancestor Mu sighed softly. As soon as he finished speaking, he ignored Chen Yen, who was still in a daze, and turned around to return to the cabin. Ancestor Mu sighed softly. As soon as he finished speaking, he ignored Chen Yen, who was still in a daze, and turned around to return to the cabin. Inside the cabin, Ancestor Mu sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. His spirit had already left his body. In the origin world, the primogenitors gathered in the hall. Ancestor Mu, Ancestor Qing, Ancestor Qilin, Ancestor Bai, and the others were all gathered together. The 8 primogenitors appeared together. Although they did not come in person, it was obvious that Shao Chen's matter had attracted their attention. The power of all living beings? The legend is actually true, Ancestor Qing said first. The primogenitors knew very little about the power of all living beings. They only knew that according to the legend, whoever obtained the power of all living beings would possess the strength to contend with the spirit of heaven and earth. Heaven and earth and all living beings were fundamentally equal. Although heaven and earth created all living beings, it did not mean that all living beings were slaves to heaven and earth. On the contrary, the power of all living beings could actually contend with the spirit of heaven and earth. However, since ancient times, no one had ever obtained this power. Therefore, as time passed, the world naturally forgot about this matter and thought that the power of all living beings did not exist. But now, the metamorphosis of Shao Chen and the others seemed to have broken everything before. The power of all living beings was real. Moreover, after obtaining the power of all living beings, Shao Chen and the others indeed possessed the strength to contend with the spirit of heaven and earth. The power of all living beings has appeared. What should we do now? Ancestor Bai chimed in as soon as Ancestor Qing finished his sentence. Right now, the origin world did not only need to pay attention to the place of creation but also Shao Chen and the others. Ancestor Qiu said in a deep voice. The battle between two tigers has turned into a tripartite confrontation. The situation in the future will probably become even more complicated. What do you think if we help the spirit of heaven and earth eliminate Shao Chen and the others? We can't do that. Putting aside whether or not the spirit of the world will agree to it, even if it does, with the support of the power of all living beings, we can actually kill it. Given the relationship between the primogenitors and Little Qing, the possibility of them working together was not high. Moreover, it would not be easy to kill Shao Chen and the others. This was similar to the various primogenitors. Little Qing could defeat them, but killing them wasn't as easy as saying. Therefore, the Qilin ancestor's suggestion was quickly rejected by the other progenitors. Although no one said it aloud, the primogenitors knew very well that the rise of Shao Chen and the others was unstoppable and unavoidable. Since there was no way to stop the rise of Shao Chen and the others, the most important thing to do now was to wait and see what the outcome of this battle would be. While the primogenitors were discussing the countermeasures, on the other side of the place of creation, Dongfang Yun led a group of experts to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Since he had completely fallen out with the land of creation, there was no way that Shao Chen would let his family stay in the land of creation again. Otherwise, if Little Qing used his family as a threat, Shao Chen would really not know how to deal with it. This should have been an extremely difficult task. Even though Dongfang Yun was an ancient life form, it was still extremely difficult to rescue people from the place of creation. However, just now, Dongfang Yun had also obtained the power of all living beings, and his cultivation base had directly broken through to the primogenitor level. Dongfang Yun's skyrocketing strength made him very confident. At the same time, he sighed inwardly. Was this the power and wish of all living beings? After absorbing the power of all living beings, Dongfang Yun knew where the power came from. He also knew that it was actually the wish of all living beings. They hoped to have a guardian god to protect them, so that they would no longer be wantonly bullied and used by the experts of the world. With the power of all living beings, Dongfang Yun quickly entered the place of creation. Now that Little Qing was fighting fiercely with Shao Chen and the others, there was no one in the place who could stop him. To put it bluntly, there was not a single ancient life form in the place of creation. It could be said that Dongfang Yun had entered a place where there was no one. Very smoothly, he found Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, Xiao Luan, Dongfang Lin and the others. When she saw Dongfang Yun, Dongfang Lin excitedly called out, "Mother? And now is not the time to talk. Let's leave this place first." There were too many things that he did not have time to discuss with the children. Dongfang Yun led the few of them and quickly left the place of creation. They did not encounter any obstructions along the way. Even if he was obstructed, with Dongfang Yun's strength, he was able to open up a bloody path, as if he was smashing rotten wood. After successfully bringing Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao and the others out of the place of creation, Dongfang Yun flew towards the place that he had discussed with Xiao Chen in advance. Dongfang Yun's operation was very smooth. On the other side, little Qing, who was fighting fiercely with Xiao Chen, also sensed everything that happened in the place of creation. Knowing that someone had taken away Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao and the others, little Qing looked at Xiao Chen and shouted angrily, "Xiao Chen, you sent people to the place of creation?" "Yes, I did. Since we've already broken off, how can I let my family fall into your hands?" In response, Xiao Chen did not refute, but admitted it openly. Just now, Xiao Chen also received a message from Dongfang Yun saying that it was a success, and he was greatly relieved. After obtaining the power of a primogenitor, Xiao Chen and the others naturally could not be mentioned in the same breath. For Xiao Chen and the others to communicate with each other through divine sense from thousands of miles away, it was too easy for them. Therefore, when Dongfang Yun had just left the place of creation, Xiao Chen already knew. Looking at Xiao Chen's indifferent appearance, little Qing was burning with anger. Not only because she could not take down Xiao Chen and the others, but also because Xiao Chen dared to send people to infiltrate the place of creation. "Xiao Chen, you're courting death." The only hostage that could threaten Xiao Chen was taken away. One could imagine how terrible little Qing's mood was. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was completely unfazed by little Qing's presence. His attitude toward little Qing had completely changed now that he had become more powerful. As the two sides fought, more and more people entered the spatial tunnel. The number was estimated to have exceeded 100 billion. They were the only living beings in the world now. At this moment, under the protection of Xiao Chen and the others, they were escaping one after another. "Spirit of heaven and earth, I have obtained the power of all living beings. From now on, I will be the master of all living beings. From now on, all living beings will no longer be anyone's tool or ant, not even heaven and earth." Seeing that most of the people had left, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun jointly forced little Qing back with a punch. Then, Xiao Chen roared at the sky. "From now on, I will be the master of all living beings in this world. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." Chapter 2942. She had failed to stop Xiao Chen and even allowed Xiao Chen to teleport hundreds of billions of cultivators from various universes away right under her nose. Little Qing's expression was extremely ugly. She had failed to stop Xiao Chen and even allowed Xiao Chen to teleport hundreds of billions of cultivators from various universes away right under her nose. Little Qing's expression was extremely ugly. Especially when she heard Xiao Chen's angry roar at this moment, one could imagine how little Qing felt. Originally, little Qing had planned to use these people to deal with the origin world. But now they had all been rescued by Xiao Chen, which had completely disrupted little Qing's plan. Xiao Chen glanced coldly at little Qing and said in a deep voice, "None of these people live in the world. All living beings in this world are not anyone's tools, nor are they anyone's sacrifices." After saying that, Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and Mo he prepared to leave. Seeing this, little Qing did not stop them. Instead, she watched them enter the spatial passage. In the end, the spatial passage slowly closed. An ancient creature said unwillingly, "Are we going to let them go just like that?" Little Qing glanced coldly at the ancient creature. Naturally, she was unwilling to let Xiao Chen and the others leave, but what could she do? Chase after them? But even if she chased after them, would she be able to stop Xiao Chen and the others? With the power of all living beings, Xiao Chen and the others were no longer the same as before. The development of the situation had seriously exceeded little Qing's expectations. This battle had thoroughly humiliated little Qing. Not only had she failed to take down Xiao Chen and the others, but she had even allowed Xiao Chen and the others to rescue them right under her nose. This was absolutely a great humiliation. Little Qing did not say anything. With a gloomy face, she turned around and left. Since things had developed to this point, it was useless to say anything else. It was a temporary end. On the other side, Xiao Chen and the others who had left soon met up with the cultivators from various universes. At the same time, Dongfang Yun, Xiao Yao, and Xiao Lao were also there. Father. Seeing Xiao Chen, the two little guys immediately came up to him. Seeing this, Xiao Chen smiled and patted their heads. Seeing that they were safe and sound, Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. In the endless starry sky, there was a dark mass of people. These people were the lucky survivors of the world. Their emotions and desires had not been erased, so they were still considered normal living beings. In the future, these people would be the ones that Xiao Chen would need to protect. Right now, the most important thing was to find a place to stay. Xiao Chen looked at Lin Yun, Mo He, and Heizu. It's time to create a home that truly belongs to us. Because of the primal origin world and the land of creation, the universes in this world were in ruins. The previous order had been completely disrupted, and the various universes could be said to be riddled with holes. Therefore, Xiao Chen wanted to rush to create a world where everyone could live in peace. In response, Lin Yun and the others nodded in agreement. It was not the best choice for these people to go to any universe. It would be best to create a new world for them. Soon, Xiao Chen and the others sat together and gathered in the starry sky. Every one of them had an aura that soared into the sky. Since they already had the strength of an ancestor, creating a world was not impossible for them. Moreover, to be precise, Xiao Chen and the others did not really want to create a world. They just wanted to merge a few universes that they had their eyes on to form a new, huge universe. The Great Thousand World, the Primordial World, the Great World, the Great Demon World, the Red Wind World, and other universes were all chosen by Xiao Chen and the others. By completely merging these universes, a new universe would be formed. The area would be extremely large, enough to support the lives of hundreds of billions of people. Rich power of laws surrounded Xiao Chen and the others. Under the influence of the power of laws, the Great Thousand World and the other universes that had been chosen quickly underwent tremendous changes. As if attracted by some force, the space began to distort. The ground, the sky, the mountains, and everything else collapsed inch by inch. It was as if they had been directly shattered. However, these universes began to merge together again and formed a new world. Such a big movement naturally did not escape the attention of the ancestor and Little Qing. Little Qing's face was gloomy, but she did not stop them. In Qiu Zhu's residence in the origin world, Hu Huang looked at Qiu Zhu with a puzzled expression and asked, "What are they doing?" He could feel that these universes seemed to have been destroyed by Xiao Chen and the others in an instant. However, very soon, they seemed to have been reborn and had broken out of their cocoons. Hu Huang did not understand what Xiao Chen and the others were doing. However, Qiu Zhu said faintly, "They want to create a new world, just like the origin world and the land of creation." Qiu Zhu was not shocked by Xiao Chen and the others' methods. After all, the other ancestor could also use such method. What really made Qiu Zhu feel complicated was that neither the origin world nor the land of creation could stop Xiao Chen and the others. This also meant that from now on, this world would form a true tripartite balance of power. They had thought that this would be a battle between the origin world and the land of creation. However, who would have thought that the legendary power of all living beings would appear at this critical juncture? This was something that no one had expected. Everything can no longer be stopped. Now, even the ancestor and the spirit of heaven and earth did not know how things would develop in the end. Everything had gone beyond their control. No one knew where the world would go in the end. They did not know what the ancestor and Little Qing were thinking. Under the mighty power of Xiao Chen and the others, a new world was slowly forming. This was a brand new world formed by merging several universes. It was huge, countless times bigger than any of the universes. The mountains, rivers, and everything was as beautiful as a painting. This was the world that Shao Chun and the others had created for the sake of all living beings. Since the world could not give all living beings a place to live, Shao Chun and the others would create one for themselves. As this new world slowly took shape, a dense heavenly might came crashing down from the sky in all directions. This was the world expressing its dissatisfaction. Because Shao Chun and the others had created a new world, it was tantamount to directly challenging the dignity of the world. However, in the face of such pressure, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, and the others did not change their expressions. Lin Yun even snorted coldly. Even if you are not happy, what can you do? Now, Shao Chun and the others were not afraid of the pressure of the world. So what if it was the world? At this moment, Shao Chun and the others only represented the living beings of the world. As for the world, Shao Chun and the others did not care about it anymore. Even if they were not happy, what could they do? Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2943. The pressure of the world covered the heavens and the earth, as if it wanted to crush Shao Chun and the others to death. However, it didn't take long for the pressure to vanish with a low shout from the others. The pressure of the world covered the heavens and the earth, as if it wanted to crush Shao Chun and the others to death. However, it didn't take long for the pressure to vanish with a low shout from the others. Disperse. A single word was spoken softly, and the pressure in the sky was instantly dispersed. The world couldn't stop Shao Chun and the others from doing anything. After all, the energy of all living beings was in existence on the same level as the spirit of the world. After obtaining the energy of all living beings, Shao Chun and the others weren't afraid of the pressure of the world anymore. It could even be said that they'd escaped the control of the world a long time ago. As time passed, the new world slowly took form. In the end, a brand new world appeared before them. Shao Chun and the others stood up and spoke to the living beings present here. This is our new home. From today onwards, even the world can't bully us as it pleases. As soon as he spoke, the living beings instantly erupted with cheers. Since the origin world and the origin world had appeared successively, the living beings had become the tools of the world. All living beings in the world seemed to have become tools in their hand. They could only be used and could only choose to submit. They had no right to resist at all. But now, along with the growth of Shao Chun and the others, the living beings of the world finally had their own protectors. Even people as strong as the primogenitors and Little Qing couldn't bully the living beings of the world as they pleased. Brother Shao Chun, give this new world a name. After all, this is where we'll live in the future. Let's call it the world of living. The world of living was the name of the new world. Since it was established for the living beings of the world, then it was naturally the most suitable name. Lin Yun smiled and nodded when she heard that. That's right. After that, Shao Chun and the others set up a shocking restriction above the world of living, and it enveloped the entire place. With this restriction in place, even the primogenitors and Little Qing couldn't sneak into the world of living, and the ancient living beings couldn't even break through the restriction. Shao Chun and the others would be able to sense the slightest movement in the air. After doing all this, the living beings began to enter the land of all living beings. This was their new home. In a new home that was free from the control of the world, it could be said that the world did not have any control over it. To put it bluntly, it meant that they wouldn't have to worry about heavenly punishment in the future when they cultivated. This was because heavenly punishment and heavenly might could not descend upon the land of all living beings. Shao Chun and the others would not allow it. With so many people entering the land of all living beings, there were naturally many things that needed to be dealt with. However, Shao Chun and the others didn't need to personally deal with these matters. Naturally, the world lords of the various universes, as well as the strong ones, would be in charge. As for Shao Chun and the others, As the guardian gods of all living beings, they only needed to oversee the land of all living beings. At the center of the land of all living beings, Shao Chun and the others rewarded the palace of all living beings. Among them, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, Mo He, Ancestor He, and Dong Fong Yun had become the gods of all living beings and were respectfully addressed as divine ancestors. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. After the land of all living beings was established, the world seemed to have returned to peace in an instant. The origin world and the land of creation were unusually quiet, which was rare for them. The battles instantly stopped, and all sides maintained a relative calm. The origin world, the land of creation, and the land of all living beings stood in a tripartite balance. They seemed to balance each other, so no one dared to act rashly. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. The land of all living beings was gradually on the right track. The vast and boundless land of all living beings had been divided into 12 prefectures, and each prefecture had hundreds of prefectures. Each prefecture was ruled by a world lord. In half a year, many people had broken through to the world lord level. With the current strength of Shao Chen and the others, it wasn't difficult for them to help some people break through to the world lord level. New rules and order were constantly being established. In the land of all living beings, everyone's center was the palace of all living beings. Everything revolved around the palace of all living beings. Shao Chun and the other divine ancestors were currently residing in the palace of all living beings. Every family and force had a statue of Shao Chun and the others. In the hearts of all living beings, Shao Chun and the others were like God. They had become the spiritual sustenance of countless people. The palace of all living beings was now like the origin world. In the hearts of all living beings, it was a place of yearning and longing. It was a place where the gods resided. In the palace of all living beings, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others were busy dealing with the various matters of the land of all living beings. Of course, Shao Chun and Lin Yun directly handed some trivial matters to Xian Yuanling, Li Tian, and the others to deal with. What they really paid attention to was the rules of the land of all living beings, the establishment of rules, and the establishment of a new world. These things were indispensable. In half a year, they slowly perfected these things one by one. The land of all living beings now resembled a true world. Brother Shao Chun, we've basically finished dealing with everything. The rules of the land of all living beings are nearing completion. The land of all living beings is now an existence comparable to the origin world and the land of creation. In a small world, Lin Yun looked at Shao Chun and said with a faint smile on her face. In response, Shao Chun smiled faintly and said, "Yes, I can finally relax." Haha, I see that brother Shao Chun has lived quite comfortably in the past half a year. Mo He laughed heartily in response. In the land of all living beings, there was no conflict between the righteous and demonic Tao. Demonic Tao cultivators, evil Tao cultivators, and righteous Tao cultivators all coexisted in this place. Although there would still be conflicts below, and there would still be competition between different forces or hostility. However, these things were nothing to Shao Chun and the others. As the guardians of all living beings, Shao Chun and the others wouldn't pay attention to these disappearances. Moreover, as long as there were people, there would definitely be competition. The competition between the various forces wasn't enough to attract the attention of Shao Chun and the others at all. What Shao Chun and the others truly cared about was the origin world and the land of creation. As for other small matters, they would naturally be handled by their subordinates. Shao Chun and the others were only responsible for setting the rules. As long as it was within the rules, there wouldn't be any problems. The land of all living beings was becoming more and more like a true world. Thus, Shao Chun said with a smile when he heard Mo He's words. Aren't all of you the same? It wasn't easy to have such a peaceful life. I see that all of you are so happy that you can't close your mouth. However, we still need to pay attention to the origin world and the land of creation. Although everything is becoming peaceful now, someone will destroy everything sooner or later. We can't lower our guard. Begging for your collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2944. The creation of the land of all living beings had gone very smoothly, and neither the origin world nor the land of creation had tried to stop it. The creation of the land of all living beings had gone very smoothly, and neither the origin world nor the land of creation had tried to stop it. However, just because of this, Shao Chun still didn't dare to be careless. After all, just because they hadn't tried to stop it didn't mean that they didn't have any other thoughts. Whether it was the origin world or the land of creation, Shao Chun was certain that they definitely wouldn't allow the land of all living beings to continue existing. Even though they had temporarily obtained half a year of peace, it still didn't prove anything. Hearing Shao Chun's words, everyone nodded in agreement. Now was indeed not the time to relax. However, compared to before, Shao Chun and the others were in a much better situation now. To be honest, when they faced the land of creation of the origin world and the land of creation. At the very least, they weren't as powerless as before when facing the two colossi. Time still passed like this, day after day. Life in the land of all living beings was still very peaceful. Ordinary people naturally didn't care about the matters of the outside world because they simply couldn't come into contact with that level. Although only half a year had passed since the creation of the land of all living beings, everyone was no longer on tenterhooks under the protection of Shao Chun and the others. As for the threat of the origin world and the land of creation, it was left to Shao Chun and the others to deal with. After returning to his residence, Shao Chun immediately saw Qin Shuru and the others, as well as Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. With the transformation of his strength, Shao Chun finally had the strength to provide a stable environment for his family. They didn't have to live under someone else's roof like before. They had their own home, so Qin Shuru and the others were naturally very happy. "You're back," 100-Flower Fairy said with a gentle smile when she saw Shao Chun. Hearing this, Shao Chun gently embraced her. "How is it? Is everything all right?" "Of course, everything is fine at home." He didn't need to worry about the matters at home. Qin Shuru and the others could be said to have taken care of everything in an orderly manner. Shao Chun didn't need to worry about anything at all. At this moment, Xiao Yao was in closed-door cultivation as well, and she was preparing to break through to the ancestor realm. As Shao Chun's eldest son, there was no need to mention Xiao Yao's cultivation talent. Coupled with the fact that he did not lack cultivation resources at all, he had broken through to the ancestor realm at a young age. After going through a series of events, whether it was Xiao Yao or Xiao Lao, both of them had matured a lot. They were already capable of taking charge. Without disturbing Xiao Yao, Shao Chun had dinner with Qin Shuru and the other girls. Although Shao Chun didn't need to eat for a long time at his cultivation level, Shao Chun liked the feeling of being able to eat together as a family. Therefore, whether it was necessary or not, as long as they had time, Shao Chun and Qin Shuru would prepare 3 meals a day like ordinary people. Then, the family would gather together to eat and chat, just like ordinary people. Just as everything in the land of living beings was stabilizing, Shao Chun brought the remaining billions of living beings to the land of living beings because Little Qing didn't have any living beings. This also meant that Little Qing didn't have the means to resurrect from death like she did in the origin world. After all, she didn't have any living beings under her command. Even if she had the means, Little Qing couldn't cook without rice. However, Little Qing clearly didn't want to give up just like that. Therefore, in the past 6 months, Little Qing had exhausted almost all the resources in the land of living beings and mastered an absolutely powerful method. She used the soil of the land of living beings to create living beings. Although they were called living beings, the things created by the soil didn't have souls at all. To put it bluntly, they didn't have intelligence. However, their combat strength was very strong, and they only obeyed Little Qing. There was no need to worry about betrayal at all. This was Little Qing's method as a spirit of the world. She had obtained ordinary living beings from the origin world and the land of living beings. As for Little Qing, because she was a step late, she didn't have many subordinates she could use, especially the low-level warriors. Little Qing had no choice but to find another way. She used her powerful method as a spirit of the world to create an army of soil. This army of soil had no soul, no intelligence, and no ability to cultivate. They only knew how to fight. This was what Little Qing needed. Seeing the army gradually take shape, the coldness in Little Qing's eyes grew stronger. After half a year of silence, it was finally time to take action. Only the beast slave and Sure Song had complicated feelings because they knew that once Little Qing took action, her first target would obviously be the land of living beings. Destroying the land of living beings first and then dealing with the origin world had always been Little Qing's plan. However, the beast slave and Sure Song couldn't accept becoming enemies with Xiao Chun. After obtaining the power of living beings, Xiao Chun had become an existence comparable to the primogenitors and Little Qing. However, from now on, he stood on the opposite side of the land of living beings. Seeing that the flames of war were about to erupt, the beast slave and Sure Song were extremely conflicted. In the past half a year, the beast slave and Sure Song had spent less and less time in contact with Little Qing. Most of the time, when they encountered problems, they would try their best to avoid them. They also rarely expressed their opinions. It was obvious that some cracks had appeared between the two of them and Little Qing. However, they weren't Xiao Chen and the others. They wouldn't break off their relationship with Little Qing just because of a small crack. As true ancient living beings, the beast slave and Sure Song's loyalty to Little Qing was unquestionable. However, because of many things that had happened, the two of them did have some opinions about Little Qing's actions. The spirit of the world should be ready. I guess it's about to take action, Sure Song said helplessly when they gathered together. Little Qing's preparations were complete. It wouldn't be long before she took action against the land of living beings. Hearing this, the beast slave said with a displeased face, "Why must we target the land of living beings? Isn't our enemy the origin world? Won't everything be over if we join forces with the land of living beings and defeat the origin world?" In the beast slave's opinion, joining forces with Xiao Chun and the others to deal with the origin world was the most important thing. Because the relationship between Little Qing and the primogenitors couldn't be reconciled. However, it was different from Xiao Chun and the others. First of all, Xiao Chun and the others' strength didn't come from the world. That was the fundamental difference. Moreover, to be honest, there were ways to resolve the cracks in their relationship. As long as Little Qing was willing, Xiao Chun and the others probably wouldn't refuse her. If they joined forces with the land of living beings and defeated the origin world, the world would soon return to peace. At that time, Little Qing would become a true spirit of the world. Xiao Chun and the others wouldn't be able to threaten her position. However, Little Qing didn't have any intention of joining forces with the land of living beings. Not only that, but she was bent on destroying the land of living beings. Destroying the land of living beings before dealing with the origin world was Little Qing's current plan. This made the beast slave rather displeased. Please add vote recommend. Chapter 2945. Their true enemy was the origin world, but Little Qing wanted to deal with the land of all life first. Their true enemy was the origin world, but Little Qing wanted to deal with the land of all life first. Because of the betrayal of Xiao Chen and the others, Little Qing had been suppressing a ball of fire in her heart. However, Xiao Chen and the others didn't count as betrayal. It could only be said that different people couldn't work together. Xiao Chen and the others couldn't accept Little Qing's actions. Fundamentally speaking, there was no enmity between them. Moreover, the beast slave knew exactly what Shao Chen and the others wanted. As long as Little Qing didn't attack the land of all life, Shao Chen and the others would definitely agree to form an alliance with Little Qing. The land of all life was Shao Chen's bottom line. As long as Little Qing could promise this, then everything could be negotiated. Unlike the origin world, there was no possibility of negotiation at all. There was an irreconcilable conflict between the two sides. Since they came from the same bloodline, either Little Qing would devour the primogenitors or the primogenitors would devour Little Qing. Therefore, it was impossible for the land of creation and the origin world to exist in peace. The matter would only end when one side was destroyed. Everything was clear, but Little Qing wanted to deal with the land of all life first. It was really inconceivable. Sure Song sighed helplessly when he heard the beast slave's complaint. "All right, this matter isn't up to us to decide. But I heard that Shao Chen and the others are developing well. I wonder what they're like. I want to go take a look." The beast slave and Sure Song often paid attention to the land of all life, so they were happy for Shao Chen when they knew that the land of all life was developing well. The beast slave rolled his eyes and smiled when he heard Sure Song's words. "Why don't we go seek refuge with Shao Chen?" Sure Song's face darkened when he heard this. He already had the thought of seeking refuge with Shao Chen. "What nonsense are you talking about? We'll be in trouble if others hear this." The beast slave and Sure Song had always been on Shao Chen's side. They'd persuaded Little Qing more than once not to attack the land of all life. Thus, Little Qing's attitude towards the two of them gradually became distant. She even began to suspect whether the two of them were going to betray her. It could be said that in Little Qing's heart, the beast slave and Sure Song's positions had long become incomparably awkward. At this time, if other people heard the beast slave's words, Little Qing would definitely be furious. At that time, even if the two of them were ancient living beings, they would not have a good ending. After the incident with Shao Chen, Shao Qing had become a little crazy. Perhaps it was because, as a spirit of heaven and earth, he had never been humiliated like this before. He had been stopped by Shao Chen and the others, whom he regarded as ants. Furthermore, they had forcibly taken away hundreds of billions of lives right under his nose. In addition, Shao Qing's relationship with Shao Chen and Shao Chen's actions made Shao Qing feel a deep sense of betrayal. As the saying goes, the more you value something, the harder it will be to accept it. Shao Chen and Shao Qing were like this. Because Little Qing valued Shao Chen from the beginning to the end, in the face of Shao Chen's betrayal, Little Qing could not accept it in her heart, and her hatred continued to rise. At this juncture, it was obviously not a wise move for the beast slave to say such words. Hearing Sure Song's words, the beast slave pursed his lips, but he consciously did not continue speaking. Although he really wanted to seek refuge with Shao Chen, the beast slave also knew that it was impossible. She and Sure Song would not betray the land of creation. At least, they would not betray it before something happened. Letting out a deep sigh, Sure Song was also very uncomfortable in the land of creation, but what could he do? The two of them did not know that their every move had been under Little Qing's surveillance. She had long been suspicious of the two of them, so a few months ago, Little Qing had already arranged for people to secretly monitor the beast slave and Sure Song's every move. Therefore, the beast slave's previous words were transmitted to Little Qing's ears without missing a single word. In her original residence, Little Qing sat on a chair with a gloomy expression, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes as she spoke coldly. "Seek refuge with the land of all living beings? Beast slave, I didn't expect that even you would betray me." After experiencing Shao Chen's incident, Little Qing could be said to be extremely sensitive to the word betrayal. At this moment, if anyone had the slightest hint of betrayal, they would definitely be met with Little Qing's violent rage, and there was no room for negotiation at all. The beast slave had personally said that he wanted to seek refuge with the land of all living beings, which directly touched Little Qing's bottom line. As soon as she finished speaking, Little Qing directly called the old tree, Mu Ling, and several other ancient living beings, and shouted in a deep voice, "Capture the beast slave for me." She suddenly wanted to attack the beast slave. Hearing this, the old tree, Mu Ling, and the others were stunned. What was going on? Wasn't everything fine all along? Why did the spirit of heaven and earth suddenly attack the beast slave? Seeing that the few of them were stunned on the spot, Little Qing's expression became even more gloomy. "What, didn't you hear what I said?" Mu Ling, who had a good relationship with Shi Song, stepped forward and said, "Spirit of heaven and earth, why did you suddenly attack the beast slave? She's an ancient living being, and she didn't do anything wrong, right?" "What, are you questioning me? She wants to defect, can't I capture her?" Little Qing was very dissatisfied with Mu Ling's question. In the past 6 months, Little Qing's desire to control had become more and more vigorous, and she didn't allow the slightest rebuttal from her subordinates at all. As long as Little Qing said something, then her subordinates must unconditionally carry it out. Seeing that Little Qing's expression was becoming more and more unfriendly, the old tree quietly pulled back Mu Ling, who was about to speak. "We obey." Stopping Mu Ling from continuing to speak, the old tree respectfully responded, and then the few of them strode away. On the way to the beast slave's residence, Mu Ling said with some displeasure, "Why did you pull me back just now? Are you looking for death? If you said another word just now, I reckon you'll end up like the beast slave." "Then what do we do now?" "Just do as you're told." Mu Ling wasn't willing to attack the beast slave, but Little Qing had already given the order. Even if she was unwilling, there was no other way. So after hearing Mu Ling's words, Mu Ling could only helplessly shake her head. The 4 ancient living beings went straight to the beast slave's residence. At this moment, the beast slave was still unaware of this. What the beast slave said just now was just a thoughtless remark. In fact, from the bottom of his heart, the beast slave had never thought of betraying the land of creation and betraying Little Qing. But who would have thought that because of his unintentional words, Xiao Qing would actually have the intention to kill him? She didn't even hesitate to send 4 ancient living beings to capture him, and didn't even give him a chance to defend himself. Because of an unintentional remark, the beast slave brought about a fatal disaster for himself. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2946. Facing the sudden arrival of Wood Spirit and the others, the beast slave didn't realize that something was wrong at first. Facing the sudden arrival of Wood Spirit and the others, the beast slave didn't realize that something was wrong at first. Instead, he smiled and said, "You guys really don't have time to visit me today." It was rare for 4 ancient creatures to visit at the same time. Moreover, among the 4 of them, the beast slave was only slightly familiar with Wood Spirit. As for the other 3, the beast slave didn't have a deep friendship with them. Hearing the beast slave's words, Wood Spirit had a complicated expression while Old Tree spoke directly. "Under the orders of Heaven and Earth Spirit, we are here to capture the beast slave." "Capture me?" Hearing this, the beast slave's expression changed immediately. "I didn't do anything and Heaven and Earth Spirit ordered people to capture me?" The beast slave was confused. However, when he looked at Old Tree and the other 3, his expression quickly turned cold as he asked in a deep voice, "Why?" He couldn't think of any reason for Heaven and Earth Spirit to capture him. After all, the beast slave hadn't done anything in the past 6 months. And to this, Old Tree's answer was, "If you have anything to say, just say it to Heaven and Earth Spirit." Compared to Wood Spirit, Old Tree was obviously more loyal to Heaven and Earth Spirit. Hence, Old Tree didn't have the slightest intention of disobeying Heaven and Earth Spirit's orders. Saying that, Old Tree and the others were ready to attack. In this regard, the beast slave was naturally unwilling to be captured without a fight. Attack! Try it if you can. Both sides attacked. Facing 4 ancient creatures at the same time, the beast slave wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he was filled with rage. To be honest, the beast slave was confused. What exactly did he do wrong for them to want to capture him for no reason? The beast slave couldn't figure it out. There wasn't even a single crime, and they only said that they were under the orders of heaven and earth spirit. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Until now, the beast slave still didn't realize that the reason why Little Green attacked him was because of his unintentional words. Just like this, the 5 of them instantly broke out into a huge battle, and the aftermath of the battle naturally spread out quickly. Beast slave, surrender. Don't be stubborn. Wood Spirit had no choice but to attack. However, Wood Spirit still hoped that the beast slave could surrender. Resisting Little Green in the land of creation wasn't a good choice. From the bottom of his heart, Wood Spirit didn't want to be enemies with the beast slave. Surrender? What did I do wrong for you to treat me like this? Humph, beast slave, you should be clear about what you've said. Hearing this, the beast slave immediately understood. It turned out that it was because he had previously said that he would not seek refuge with Xiao Chen and the others. Because of such a sentence, Little Qing actually directly attacked him. Regarding this, the beast slave immediately laughed out loud. Haha, so that's how it is. Just because of one sentence you want to punish me? What a joke. Putting aside whether or not the beast slave had any thoughts of betraying the land of creation, just because of one sentence, he wanted to punish himself. From this, it could be seen how petty Little Qing's tolerance was now. How could such a narrow-minded person be worthy of the title of Spirit of Heaven and Earth? Originally, the beast slave thought that it was because of something else, but he didn't expect that it would be because of this matter. Ridiculous, extremely ridiculous. After understanding everything, the beast slave became even angrier. If it was because of other matters, then perhaps the beast slave would still be able to figure it out. However, it was because of such a non-existent matter. Just because of a little suspicion in his heart, the beast slave was going to be convicted. No matter what, the beast slave refused to accept it. Immediately, the beast slave's attacks became even more frenzied, as if he was going to fight with his life. Want to catch me? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Beast slave, repent before you're saved. Seeing this, Old Tree and the other 3 no longer held back, and Wood Spirit even opened her mouth to persuade. However, the beast slave at this moment was no longer listening to what Wood Spirit was saying. The battle between the few of them quickly attracted the attention of the others, and Sure Song was the first to rush over. Seeing Old Tree and the other 3 besieging the beast slave, Sure Song immediately stopped them and asked in confusion. What are you doing? Sure Song, this has nothing to do with you. This is the order of the Spirit of Heaven and Earth. The Spirit of Heaven and Earth wanted to capture the beast slave. Hearing this, Sure Song was stunned. He didn't know why the Spirit of Heaven and Earth wanted to capture the beast slave, and the beast slave didn't want to implicate Sure Song. Sure Song, this is a matter between me and them. Both Sure Song and the beast slave were very clear. Although the 2 of them were rather critical of Little Qing's actions recently, to be honest, the 2 of them had never thought of betraying the land of creation. However, Little Qing's actions, especially this time when she ordered Old Tree and the other 3 to capture him, really made the beast slave bitterly disappointed. He clearly didn't have any disloyalty, but he was still suspected and even wanted to capture him because of an unintentional sentence. The battle lasted for a few days, and the beast slave was really angry. However, it was 1 against 4, and the end result was obvious. The beast slave was captured. After Sure Song knew the whole story, his face turned ashen, and he personally went to find Little Qing. However, he only stayed for less than 15 minutes before he was chased out by Little Qing. As for the beast slave, he was directly sentenced to death. Because of a single sentence, little Qing wanted to kill an ancient creature. After his persuasion failed, he returned to his residence. Shi Song's face was ashen. He never thought that little Qing would become like this. Shi Song knew best whether the beast slave was disloyal or not, but little Qing didn't listen to his explanation at all. Damn it! Shi Song cursed inwardly. He was extremely disappointed in little Qing. Now that the beast slave was imprisoned, Shi Song couldn't do anything. He would be killed in a few days. After pondering alone for a night, Shi Song finally left the land of creation quietly. No one knew where he went. A day later, Shi Song appeared at the entrance of the land of all living beings. As soon as he appeared, Xianyuan Ling's figure appeared at the same time. Xiao Qin and the others naturally wouldn't let down their guard against the land of all living beings. Therefore, as soon as Shi Song appeared, Xiao Qin and the others felt it. Shi Song. Seeing Shi Song, Xianyuan Ling said with some confusion, "Brother Xianyuan, why are you not in the land of creation? What are you doing here?" "Sai, it's a long story, but I want to see Xiao Qin. Can I?" "Don't worry, I came alone." Shi Song wanted to see Xiao Qin. Regarding this, Xianyuan Ling was silent for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Although Shi Song was an ancient creature, he was no longer a threat to the current Xiao Qin. There was no problem for him to come alone and see Xiao Qin. Moreover, even if they had completely broken off with the land of creation, Xiao Qin and the others had always treated the beast slave and Shi Song as their friends. Please add, please vote, please recommend. The error-free chapters of Sword Master Vast Expanse will continue to be updated in the bar. There are no advertisements on the website. Please add and recommend the bar. If you like Sword Master Vast Expanse, please add. Sword Master Vast Expanse bar updates the fastest. Chapter 2947. Please. Xianyuan Ling made a gesture and personally invited Shi Song in. The two of them entered the land of living beings together. Shi Song really found it hard to imagine that the world before him was actually a world that had only been created half a year ago. The spirit energy was dense and the laws were complete. Although it couldn't compare to the land of creation or the origin world, it absolutely surpassed any other universe. Of course, the numerous universes in the world were basically useless now. Space had collapsed and the laws had withered. In the entire world, there were only 3 places where people could still live: the land of living beings, the origin world, and the land of creation. Compared to the origin world and the land of creation, the number of living beings living in the land of living beings was definitely the highest. They were weak, and even after the land of living beings was successfully created, they didn't have the ability to leave the world. After all, the land of living beings was just too large for them. Just a single continent was something they would never be able to cover in their entire lives. Therefore, in just half a year, many people had already forgotten about the conflicts in the outside world, and only the land of living beings remained in their eyes. It could be said that Xiao Qin had really done what he said. He had indeed created a safe place for all living beings in the world to shelter them from the wind and rain. It made them forget everything in the outside world. As for the threats of the origin world and the land of creation, Xiao Qin and the other divine ancestors were naturally in charge of dealing with them. They went all the way to the sacred land at the center of the land of living beings. This was where Xiao Qin and the other divine ancestors resided. In the land of living beings, it had become a place where the gods resided. Moreover, Xiao Qin and the others weren't willing to disturb the living beings in the land of living beings. Therefore, they had set up layers of restrictions around the sacred land. No one could approach it at all. Under Xianyuan Ling's lead, Shi Song naturally entered the sacred land without a hitch, and he met Xiao Qin in a small world. He was chatting with Qin Shuru and the others. When they saw Shi Song walk over, Qin Shuru and the others stood up and bowed. Xiao Chen also smiled. Senior Shi Song. I can't afford to be called senior now, replied Shi Song with a smile. Shi Song replied with a smile. He was indeed not worthy of being addressed as senior by Xiao Chen. Right now, Xiao Chen was someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the primogenitors and the spirits of the world. He was not someone an ancient life form like him could compare to. However, Xiao Chen did not care about this. The way he saw it, Shi Song was his friend. That was enough. Xiao Chen asked with a smile after inviting Shi Song to take a seat, and the two of them chatted for a while. Why are you here all of a sudden? If the spirit of heaven and earth finds out, it won't be a good thing. Given the relationship between the two of them, if little Qing were to find out that Shi Song had personally come to see her, she would definitely fly into a rage. In the face of Xiao Chen's inquiry, Shi Song did not hide anything and immediately told Xiao Chen the whole story. Sigh. The heaven and earth spirits are completely different from before. I have no choice. The main purpose of Shi Song's visit was to hope that Xiao Chen could save the beast slave's life. In this world, Shi Song really didn't know who to turn to. Only Xiao Chen had the ability to save the beast slave from little Qing's hands. As for the primogenitors, Shi Song didn't think about them at all. They wouldn't intervene, and even if they did, it wouldn't be for the sake of saving the beast slave. After hearing about the beast slave, Xiao Chen was taken aback. He didn't expect little Qing to capture the beast slave and sentence him to death in a few days. In Xiao Chen's impression, even though he and little Qing had parted ways due to their different ideologies, little Qing shouldn't be so unwise as a spirit of heaven and earth. Wasn't it a little too exaggerated to kill the beast slave just because of his unintentional words? Just as Shi Song had said, little Qing was now completely different from before. I didn't expect her to become like this. Xiao Chen knitted his brows and murmured softly. Xiao Chen, if you don't intervene, the beast slave will be finished. On account of our previous friendship, please save the beast slave. Shi Song pleaded sincerely. Looking at the situation, Xiao Chen put up a stern expression. Don't worry. Even if you don't say it, I won't stand by and do nothing. I've been friends with the beast slave for so many years. How can I not help when a friend is in trouble? Without any hesitation, Xiao Chen agreed immediately. The beast slave was the closest to Xiao Chen among the ancient creatures. As for his friend, Xiao Chen definitely wouldn't leave him in the lurch. Third brother, in order to save the beast slave, you will have to fight with the heaven and earth spirit. At this juncture, I'm afraid, Xianyuan Ling reminded timely. Of course, Xianyuan Ling transmitted his voice and didn't let Shi Song hear it. In Xianyuan Ling's opinion, it wasn't a good thing to have a conflict with the land of creation over a beast slave. The land of living beings just had a problem, so it wasn't a good time to do so. Moreover, this time, there were no benefits for the land of living beings. It was just to save one person. Xianyuan Ling was considering the overall situation. If there were no benefits, it would naturally mean that there were no benefits. But in this regard, Xiao Chen replied straightforwardly. If I have to pay attention to this for everything, I'm afraid I'm no different from those old guys in the origin world. Xiao Chen had already made up his mind, and no one could change his mind. He turned to look at Shi Song. Shi Song, stay with me for the time being. Don't worry about the beast slave. I won't sit by and do nothing. Thank you. But the puppet I left in the land of living beings can only last for 3 days. After 3 days, the heaven and earth spirits will definitely know that I left. By then, it will be troublesome to save the beast slave. Okay, I got it. After saying that, Xiao Chen left in a hurry. Since he was going to make a move and become enemies with the land of living beings, he definitely had to inform Lin Yun and the others in advance. After all, the land of living beings wasn't his problem alone. If he really made a move, Lin Yun and the others would definitely know. With a thought, he told Lin Yun and the others to come to the hall to discuss something. Soon, Lin Yun and the others came to the hall one after another. When they saw Xiao Chen arrive first, Lin Yun asked with a smile. "What's wrong? Why did you call us here in such a hurry?" "Yeah, there hasn't been anything unusual in the outside world recently." They didn't know why Xiao Chen had called them here. After everyone arrived, Xiao Chen spoke. "The beast slave has been captured and will be executed in the next few days. I want to save her." He didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. When they heard that, Lin Yun and the others' expressions quickly became serious. Xiao Chen wanted to save someone. It wasn't a big problem. But the key was that he wanted to save someone from Little Qing. He had to be careful. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2948. Currently, the land of all living beings, the origin world, and the land of creation were in a three-way stalemate. No one dared to act rashly. This was also the reason why the three sides had stabilized over the past half a year. There had been no conflict, and no one had chosen to attack. Because a slight move could affect the whole situation. You had no idea how things would develop once you attacked. Moreover, unlike the previous situation, you're facing more than one enemy now. Previously, when the origin world and the land of creation were fighting, both sides only needed to think about how to defeat the other side. But now, when you were fighting one side, you had to divert your attention to guard against a third party's sneak attack. Moreover, once the casualties were too great, it was very likely that you would benefit the other side for no reason. In a three-way stalemate, there were many things to consider. Therefore, when they heard that Xiao Chen wanted to rescue the beast slave, Lin Yun and the others fell into deep thought. On one hand, they were shocked because of the beast slave. After all, the beast slave was an ancient creature. How could Little Qing kill it just like that? This was completely different from the Little Qing they knew. Secondly, it was the feasibility of the rescue operation. It was not easy to rescue someone from Little Qing's hands. Moreover, it was very likely that a battle would break out. When the time came, no one could say for sure how things would develop. Xiao Chen did not rush them. Instead, he waited patiently for their answer. Even if Lin Yun and the others did not agree, Xiao Chen would still take action. At most, he would go alone. With his current strength, although he was not Little Qing's match in a one-on-one battle, it should not be a problem for him to rescue the beast slave. After a moment of silence, Lin Yun finally said, "Even if we don't agree, you will still do it yourself, right?" "That's right." Lin Yun smiled when he heard that. He then shook his head helplessly. "I knew it. But I have no reason to object. After all, we were acquainted with the beast slaves. We can't just stand by and watch when a friend is in trouble." Although saving the beast slave was dangerous and there were too many uncertainties, Lin Yun still chose to save the beast slave. Following Lin Yun's statement, Mu Lingxian and the others nodded and smiled. No one denied Xiao Chen's decision. Although everyone was now the divine ancestor of the land of all living beings, there had never been a time when everyone was so united. Perhaps because they had experienced it before, Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others were now very close to each other. They were extremely united. After deciding to rescue the beast slave, after discussion they decided to sneak into the land of creation. It would be best if they could safely rescue her. However, if something unexpected were to happen, or if Little Qing were to discover them, in that case, they had no choice but to fight. When the time came, Mu Lingxian and the others would come to their aid in time and cover Xiao Chen's escape. Brother Lin Yun greeted Shi Song when he saw Lin Yun. "Senior Shi Song, we've decided to head to the land of creation immediately. However, Senior Shi Song, I don't think it's better for you to stay in the land of all living beings." Shi Song's situation wasn't much better than the beast slave. Since Little Qing could kill the beast slave, she could naturally kill him as well. Therefore, Shao Chen believed that Shi Song couldn't return to the land of creation now, so it was better for him to stay in the land of all living beings and join them. Shi Song didn't refuse. Clearly, he'd considered this point and immediately smiled. That was my original plan. But don't you need me to go with you if you want to save the beast slave? Shi Song had originally planned to leave the land of creation, because Little Qing's actions had indeed chilled his heart. The world spirit of the past was gone. The current Little Qing was completely different from before. Her personality had become suspicious and tyrannical. Moreover, she didn't have the slightest tolerance for others. Many times, as long as someone refuted Little Qing's decisions, it was very likely that they would be punished. Moreover, the laws of the world had completely changed. The authority of the world spirit seemed to have been seriously challenged. The reason was the existence of the origin world and the land of all living beings. The world seemed to be the ruler of everything no longer, and all living beings had erupted with the strength to resist the world. So, Shi Song had made his decision before he came here. However, Shao Chen and Lin Yun smiled and refused Shi Song's intention to follow them to the land of creation. Senior Shi Song, there's no need to go. Lin Yun and I can go. It'll be disadvantageous to the operation if there are too many people. Even though Shi Song possessed the cultivation of an ancient life form, it wouldn't be good for him to go with them when it came to the rescue. After all, it was very difficult for him to hide from Little Qing's perception with his cultivation. However, Shao Chen and Lin Yun were different. It wasn't difficult for them to hide from Little Qing's perception with their strength. So long as they didn't take the initiative to attack, Shao Chen and Lin Yun had plenty of methods to secretly sneak into the land of creation. Of course, if they encountered obstruction and a battle occurred, then it would be a different story. Shi Song also understood the meaning of Shao Chen's words, so he didn't force them and readily agreed. However, he reminded Shao Chen and Lin Yun to be careful. Shao Chen and Lin Yun were going to sneak into the land of creation to rescue someone. Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the other women were naturally worried. However, they only reminded the two of them to be careful, so they didn't stop them too much. Time was tight. They had to rescue the beast slaves before Little Qing discovered the land of creation that Shi Song had created. Therefore, Shao Chen and Lin Yun departed from the land of all living beings on the same day. With their current strength, their speed was much faster than the spatial spirit boat. Therefore, they didn't ride the spatial spirit boat. Instead, they directly stepped into the void and disappeared. In merely 2 hours, the two of them arrived outside the land of creation. They weren't unfamiliar with the land of creation. They knew how to enter the land of creation, but they didn't enter directly from the entrance. Instead, they directly tore apart the restrictions around the land of creation and entered. The land of creation was surrounded by restrictions. Even ancient creatures couldn't break them. However, this wasn't a problem for Shao Chen and Lin Yun. After entering the land of creation smoothly, Shao Chen looked at Lin Yun and said, "The beast slaves have been imprisoned. Let's go directly to the prison." Shao Chen and Lin Yun did not want to cause any unnecessary trouble, so they went straight to the prison to rescue the beast slave and successfully evacuate. Their mission would be considered complete. As for what Little Qing discovered in the end, it wasn't a problem that they should consider now. In any case, they definitely had to save the beast slaves. Even if Little Qing was furious because of this, it didn't matter. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2949. They went straight to the prison. Along the way, Shao Chen and Lin Yun concealed their auras. They went straight to the prison. Along the way, Shao Chen and Lin Yun concealed their auras. With their cultivation strength, even ancient creatures would not be able to detect them. Little Qing would not be able to sense them unless it deliberately searched for them. However, when the two entered the land of creation, they did not alarm anyone. Little Qing could not possibly know that the two of them were in the land of creation at this time. Along the way, they avoided many creatures in the land of creation. As they had lived in the land of creation before, Shao Chen and Lin Yun knew the land of creation very well. This also made the two of them more at ease. They knew where the danger was and could avoid it in advance. They arrived at the prison without a hitch. However, it was obvious that there were guards here, and Shao Chen and Yi Futian needed to get rid of these guards without using any spiritual power. Once they used spiritual power, even if it was only a trace, it might be detected by Little Qing. They did not have any hopes of getting lucky. As a spirit of heaven and earth, Little Qing's divine sense definitely enveloped the entire land of creation at all times. Any rustling of leaves in the wind could not escape Little Qing's senses at all. "Let's make some preparations first," she whispered to Shao Chen. Hearing this, Shao Chen nodded. Then, the two of them took action together and directly confined and separated the entire space that covered the prison. They did this to hide it from Little Qing. After directly separating the space, even if Little Qing's divine sense scanned it, it would not detect the slightest abnormality. Of course, this was only for a short period of time. To put it bluntly, it was similar to a trick. However, it was necessary to do this. If not, when Shao Chen and Lin Yun had just rescued the beast slave, it was very likely that they would be discovered by Little Qing. However, after separating the space in advance, even if Shao Chen and Lin Yun had rescued the beast slave, Little Qing would not discover it immediately. At least, they could hide it for a period of time. And this period of time was enough for Shao Chen and Lin Yun to leave with the beast slave. That was enough. As long as they could successfully leave the place of creation, this operation would be considered a success. However, even though they were prepared in advance, Shao Chen and Lin Yun still couldn't use their spiritual power. Otherwise, their auras would still leak out. However, even if they didn't use their spiritual energy, it wouldn't be a problem. With their physical strength, Shao Chen and Shao Chen could easily take care of the guards around them. First, they started from the outermost area. Many creatures from the land of creation were responsible for guarding the prison, while Shao Chen and Lin Yun were secretly cleaning up. His figure flashed and arrived behind a member of the fire spirit race, and then he struck the back of the fire spirit race member's neck and immediately knocked the fire spirit race member out. After dealing with one, Shao Chen's figure flashed, and he instantly disappeared from where he stood. He continued on to the next target. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the guards outside were completely wiped out by the two of them. Now, only the guards in the prison were left. However, once they entered the prison, the space became narrow, and it wouldn't be so easy to launch a sneak attack again. Therefore, Shao Chen and Lin Yun directly planned to attack and take care of the guards in the prison as soon as possible. They dared to take care of them in one fell swoop before they could spread the news. They looked at each other and nodded slightly. The two of them moved at the same time. They turned into two black shadows and rushed into the prison in an instant. At this time, at the entrance of the prison, 4 guards were gathered together and chatting idly. However, without any warning, Shao Chen and Lin Yun appeared instantly. The 4 of them were all shocked, but before they had time to react, Shao Chen and Lin Yun directly attacked and immediately knocked the 4 of them to the ground. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. After taking care of the guards at the entrance, Shao Chen and Lin Yun didn't stop and continued to rush into the depths of the prison. Wherever they passed, the guards didn't have any chance to react at all and were directly killed. A faint smell of blood gradually spread in the prison, and the beast slave, who was in the deepest part of the prison, had her head lowered. Her hair was disheveled, but she slowly raised her head. Her eyes were lifeless, but there was a hint of doubt in them. She smelled a faint smell of blood. This was the prison of the land of creation. Why was there a smell of blood? Could it be that someone was attacking the prison? She shook her head in self-mockery and felt that she was thinking too much. What was this place? It was the land of creation. Who would dare to attack the prison? When she thought that she had actually become a prisoner, because of a sentence, the beast slave's heart was like dead ashes. She had never thought that she would fall into such a plight one day. As an ancient creature, she was actually killed by little Qing just like that. Moreover, the reason was so groundless, and she didn't even have the slightest chance to defend herself. In fact, ever since she had been captured, the beast slave hadn't even seen little Qing once. It was almost as if little Qing didn't even want to listen to her explanation. Her heart was like dead ashes. Perhaps it wasn't so bad to die like this. Just as the beast slave was thinking this, two figures suddenly appeared outside her cell. She looked up and saw Xiao Chen and Lin Yun standing in front of her with smiles on their faces. You. What? Is it that strange to see us? Why are you here? To get you out of here, of course. As she replied with a smile, she undid the seal around the beast slave and restored her cultivation base. The beast slave looked at Xiao Chen in shock. She had never imagined that Xiao Chen would appear here. Her mind was blank, and she asked almost instinctively, "How did you know?" The beast slave was very confused. How did Xiao Chen and Lin Yun know about her? Sure Song came looking for us. He's already in the land of living beings. Alright, there's no need to think about it. You probably won't be able to stay in the land of creation any longer. Come back with us. I'm sure the land of living beings will be much more comfortable than the land of creation. Okay. The beast slave looked deeply at Xiao Chen, then nodded without much hesitation. She didn't want to stay in the land of creation to begin with. After this incident, the beast slave's heart toward little Qing was like dead ashes. Her loyalty to little Qing had long since been shattered. Therefore, in the face of Xiao Chen's invitation, the beast slave agreed without much thought. She smiled and nodded, then the three of them left the cell. By now, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun had taken care of all the guards in the cell. They rushed out without incident and disappeared into the void. The simplest step had been successful. Next was to leave the land of creation. As long as they left the land of creation, even Xiao Chen wouldn't be able to do anything to them. After all, if little Qing wanted to stop Xiao Chen and Lin Yun, it wouldn't be that easy. Moreover, it seemed that little Qing hadn't noticed anything amiss. Otherwise, she would have made a move long ago. So far, everything had been going smoothly, just as he had expected. Please add me to your collection. Please recommend me. Chapter 2950. The three of them escaped from the place of creation. With Xiao Chen and Lin Yun escorting them, everything went smoothly. The three of them escaped from the place of creation. With Xiao Chen and Lin Yun escorting them, everything went smoothly. Many experts in the place of creation sensed something. Xiao Chen and the other two only heaved a sigh of relief when they successfully left the place of creation. Alright, we shouldn't stay here any longer. Let's leave as soon as possible. However, Lin Yun still spoke cautiously. Although they had successfully left the place of creation, the spatial restriction of the two wouldn't last long. Once the spatial restriction of the prison was broken, little Qing would definitely be able to detect the problem immediately. By then, it would be difficult to attack. In this regard, Xiao Chen didn't have any objections. Because the beast slave was injured, the two of them left with the beast slave directly. Their figures flashed and instantly disappeared from the spot. At the same time, after Xiao Chen and the other two left, a full 15 minutes had passed before the spatial restriction of the prison slowly dissipated. And it was at this time that little Qing finally felt that something was wrong. With a thought, she instantly appeared outside the prison. Looking at the people around the prison, little Qing's expression was extremely cold. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's auras were still floating in the air. Little Qing was naturally no exception to these two auras. Damn it! She cursed angrily. It was Xiao Chen and Lin Yun again. Moreover, the two of them had rescued the beast slave. Without even entering the prison, Little Qing knew that the beast slave had been rescued by the two of them. This made Little Qing very angry. This was the place of creation, her base camp. However, the other party had entered without anyone noticing, and no one had noticed anything wrong. What was this? Was this a blatant provocation? A terrifying aura instantly swept across the sky. Then, the old tree, the wood spirit, the stone spirit clan leader, and other experts from the place of creation rushed over. Seeing the ashen Little Qing and the countless corpses lying around the prison, everyone was stunned. The old tree even had an ominous premonition. Good, very good. They have already fought their way into your home, but you actually didn't notice at all. Little Qing was practically gnashing her teeth as she spoke. The old tree and the others could only lower their heads submissively and remain silent. It was obvious that Little Qing was on the verge of exploding at this moment. She swept her gaze over everyone and shouted coldly, "What are you still standing there for? Quickly go and see if that fellow, Song, is still in the origin world." Since Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had personally rescued the beast slave, where did the two of them get the news? The first person that came to Little Qing's mind was Song. Other than Song, who else would do such a thing? With that, the old tree and the patriarch of the Stone Spirit clan immediately made their way to Song's residence. However, their faces completely darkened when they arrived there to take a look. Song's aura came from this puppet. Their faces darkened. When they thought about Little Qing's rage, the old tree and the Stone Spirit clan's patriarch shook their heads and smiled bitterly. However, they did not dare to delay any longer. They grabbed the puppet that Song had left behind and returned to Little Qing's residence. Seeing the two of them return with a puppet, Little Qing, who was seated on the main seat, understood everything before the two of them could say anything. Her face, which was already burning with rage, became even more gloomy as she said coldly, "A living person disappeared just like that. Moreover, it has been so many days. Didn't any of you notice at all?" Her words were obviously filled with blame. Everyone did not know how to answer her and could only choose to remain silent. Little Qing paused for a moment when she saw everyone lowering their heads in silence. Then, she waved her hand and said unhappily, "All of you, get lost." After ordering everyone to leave, Little Qing's expression became even more unsightly. At the same time, her hatred for Xiao Chen and the others grew even more intense. Xiao Chen and the others had been stopping her from the beginning. This time, they even dared to enter the land of creation to save someone. They did not take her seriously at all. She was already planning to attack the land of living beings. Since Xiao Chen and the others did not know what was good for them, they could not blame her. While Little Qing was burning with rage, Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the beast slave quickly returned to the land of living beings. With Xiao Chen and Lin Yun leading the way, their speed was naturally very fast. In just a little over 2 hours, they arrived at the land of living beings. When they arrived at the land of living beings, the beast slave's expression was the same as Song's. They were both shocked. The land of living beings that had only been established for half a year had actually developed to this extent. "How did you do it?" they asked in disbelief. "Haha, we didn't do it. It's the result of everyone's efforts." Hearing this, Xiao Chen laughed heartily. The land of living beings was able to develop so quickly not because of Xiao Chen and the others, but because of the efforts of all living beings in the world. Everyone understood that the land of living beings was their home. Therefore, everyone could be said to be united in the construction of the land of living beings. It could even be said that Xiao Chen and the others had only established the land of living beings. As for other things, they really did not do much. The beast slave was shocked. At the same time, looking at Xiao Chen on the side, all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. When he first saw Xiao Chen was still as weak as an ant in his eyes. However, in just a short period of time, Xiao Chen had already reached such a level. He had far surpassed him, and was even able to contend with the spirits of the world. Even now, when he thought about this series of changes, it was like a dream. Soon, they returned to the Temple of All Saint. The beast slave saw Sure Song, who had been waiting there for a long time. Seeing that the beast slave was safe and sound, Sure Song was relieved. At the same time, Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others heard the news and quickly rushed over. Xiao Chun and the others went to rescue the beast slave, which indeed made the girls very worried. They succeeded? Isn't it obvious? Yes, but we might have to be careful of the land of living beings. Mu Lingxian, Mo He, and the others also arrived. After asking about the rescue process and learning that everything went smoothly, they all breathed a sigh of relief and began to be on guard. This time, they rescued the beast slave right under Little Qing's nose. According to Little Qing's current personality, it probably would not let this matter rest. However, they did not know what Little Qing would do, but the necessary precautions must be taken. Perhaps Little Qing would directly attack. This was something that no one could guarantee. In response, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun both nodded in agreement. Please add this to your collection. Monthly vote recommend this. Chapter 2951. Successfully producing a beast slave was indeed something to be happy about. However, the necessary precautions couldn't be ignored. Successfully producing a beast slave was indeed something to be happy about. However, the necessary precautions couldn't be ignored. After suffering such a huge loss, in addition to Little Qing's unpredictable personality, who knew what he would do? Therefore, they had to pay attention to Mu Lingxian and the others' warning. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were very clear about this. Yes, that's right. Besides Little Qing, we can't lower our guard against those old fellows from the origin world. Yes, although those old fellows haven't done anything in the past half a year, who knows what they're doing in the dark? Yes. They had to be on guard against the origin world and the land of creation. Neither side was easy to deal with. Little Qing's threat wasn't small, but the threat of the primogenitors couldn't be ignored. After a simple conversation, they arranged for people to be on guard against the movements of the origin world and the land of creation. They arranged for the beast slave and Sure Song to live together. From now on, the two of them could be considered as members of the land of creation. The beast slave had to recuperate for a while because of his injuries. When they returned to their residence and sat down in the courtyard, Xiao Chen saw Xiao Lao running over happily. Seeing this, Xiao Chen scolded him with a smile. You're playing around again? Your brother is in seclusion. What about you? You don't even know how to cultivate. Dad, Big Brother is in seclusion because he's about to break through. I haven't reached the time yet. Naturally, I don't need to be in seclusion. Little brat, cultivate properly. Otherwise, I'll beat you up. Xiao Chen naturally doted on the two boys, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, especially Xiao Lao. He had been mischievous since he was young and had caused Xiao Chen a lot of trouble. Compared to the smart and sensible Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao was indeed more troublesome. However, the two brothers were very talented in cultivation, especially Xiao Lao. Although he was the younger brother, his cultivation was higher than Xiao Yao's. Xiao Yao was still in seclusion to break through to the ancestor realm, but Xiao Lao had already broken through to the ancestor realm. Qin Shuru and the other girls smiled when they saw how close the father and son were. Flower Fairy even turned her head and teased Gu Lingyao, Tianyue, and Hongxiu. My three younger sisters, you have to hurry as well. Father and mother asked me a few days ago. Right now, Xiao Chen only had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Gu Lingyao, Tianyue, and Hongxiu didn't have any children yet. Xiao Chen didn't care much about this matter. After all, there were too many things that Xiao Chen had to deal with. It was hard for him to take care of these things. However, as parents, Xiao Qing and Bai Ryue didn't think the same way. Gu Lingyao and the other two didn't have a child for a long time, and this had become a huge matter in their hearts. As elders, the two elders naturally hoped to have a house full of children and grandchildren. Moreover, Xiao Yao and the other two had already grown up. To be honest, they didn't have much time to accompany the two elders. Therefore, the two elders also hoped that Gu Lingyao and the other two could have their own children soon. Hearing Flower Fairy's words, the three girls blushed. Qin Shuru even teased them, which was rare. From today onwards, our husband will let you have him. Little sister Baihua and I will take the initiative to withdraw. How about it? Sister Shuai-ro, what are you talking about? Even the eccentric Gu Lingyao blushed and acted coquettishly when she heard this. Smiling, the five girls quickly sat down on either side of Xiaoqin. However, Gu Lingyao and the other two girls blushed while Flower Fairy gently massaged Xiaoqin's shoulders. There was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Husband, Yao is in seclusion. Lao is fine as well. However, Luan has been having some problems recently. What's wrong with Luan? Hearing this, Xiaoqin asked curiously. Speaking of which, it seemed that he hadn't seen Luan for a very long time. Hearing this, Xiao Lao, who was at the side, immediately said, I know. What do you know, kid? Let me hear it. Big sister has someone she likes. Recently, they have been spending all their time together. They even went to many places to play. Facing Xiaoqin's question, Xiao Lao said proudly. Hearing this, Xiaoqin was stunned. Xiao Luan has someone she likes? Why didn't he know about this? He looked at Qin Shuru and the other girls in confusion. Seeing this, Qin Shuru scolded with a smile. Who can you blame? It's all because you have too many things to do and don't pay attention to the children. That's true. Tell me, who is the other party? In fact, Xiao Luan had reached the age of marriage, but if the man was not good enough, Xiaoqin wouldn't agree. Although Xiao Luan wasn't his biological daughter, after so many years, Xiaoqin had long regarded her as his own daughter. Even after Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were born, Xiaoqin's love for Xiao Luan didn't decrease. After all, a daughter was naturally more heartwarming than a son. Seeing Xiaoqin's curious and somewhat nervous expression, Qin Shuru and the other girls couldn't help but smile. The dignified divine ancestor was surprisingly nervous. Perhaps this was the only thing that could make Xiaoqin show such an expression. Speaking of which, you know that person. It's Lin Yun's only son, Lin Feng. Qin Shuru didn't beat around the bush and directly told Xiaoqin. Hearing that it was Lin Feng, Xiaoqin was stunned. Although Xiaoqin didn't have much contact with Lin Feng, he still knew him. This boy was indeed good. He was talented and had a good character. In addition, his father was Lin Yun, who was on good terms with his family. For Xiao Luan, he was indeed a good match. Haha, so it's this stinky boy. Xiaoqin laughed heartily. He didn't have any doubts about Lin Feng. If the two were really in love, Xiaoqin would certainly not object. However, Lin Yun wanted his precious daughter to be his daughter-in-law. He wouldn't let him get it so easily. No, I have to go to Lin Yun's place tomorrow. My daughter can't marry him so carelessly. Among the crowd, Xiaoqin and Lin Yun's relationship was the best. Naturally, he didn't have any misgivings when he spoke. A few days ago, Bing Ning and Qing Zhu came in person, saying that they wanted to discuss the date of the engagement and settle the matter of the two boys as soon as possible. So soon? Soon? You really don't care about anything. Luan has already come to discuss this matter with us, and so has Lin Feng. How come I didn't know about it at all? You don't know anymore. Xiao Luan and Lin Feng had already reached the point of discussing the marriage. Xiaoqin was surprised when he heard that. He didn't expect that his precious daughter would be getting married in the blink of an eye. He didn't know what to feel in his heart. He was happy, excited, and gratified, but more than that, he seemed to be reluctant. When he thought that his daughter, who had always been by his side, was about to get married, Xiao Chen felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2952. Xiao Luan's matter really surprised Xiao Chen, because he didn't hear any news at all. Xiao Luan's matter really surprised Xiao Chen, because he didn't hear any news at all. The next morning, Xiao Chen couldn't help looking for Lin Yun. Seeing Xiao Chen looking for her so early in the morning, Lin Yun asked curiously, "Looking for me so early in the morning, is there something else?" "There must be something, and it's a big matter." "Oh, tell me about it." Xiao Chen's words quickly aroused Lin Yun's interest. What big matter could make Xiao Chen come to her so early in the morning? While the two were talking, Lu Bingning, Qing Zhu, and other Lin Yun's wives also came over. Looking at Xiao Chen's complicated expression, the women covered their mouths and chuckled. Like Xiao Chen, Lin Yun didn't know about this matter. After all, the two were too busy recently, so they naturally neglected these things. She looked at Xiao Chen doubtfully. Seeing this, Xiao Chen said angrily, "It seems that you don't know anything either. Where is your son now? Feng Er? What's wrong? Did this kid annoy you? You're so old and you still want to argue with a child?" "Nonsense, if I don't argue, I'm afraid my daughter will be abducted." And, the more she talked, the more confused she became. In the end, Lu Bingning and the other women came forward and told Lin Yun the truth. Hearing that Lin Feng was actually with Xiao Chen's daughter, Xiao Luan, Lin Yun was stunned at first, then she laughed loudly. "Haha, good, Feng Er did a good job. You found me a good daughter-in-law." Saying this, Lin Yun also looked at Xiao Chen provocatively. In this regard, Xiao Chen curled his lips and ignored this arrogant guy. However, how could Lin Yun, who was in a good mood, let go of Xiao Chen so easily? She put her arm around Xiao Chen's shoulder and said with a smile, "Haha, brother Xiao Chen, this is a good thing. Our families will be even closer." "Stop, I haven't agreed yet. Don't be happy too early." The more Lin Yun acted like this, the more unhappy Xiao Chen was in his heart. The daughter that he raised for so many years became someone else's daughter-in-law all of a sudden. This feeling was really uncomfortable. Lin Yun didn't care about this at all. Lu Bing and the other women on the side also covered their mouths and chuckles, without any intention to interrupt. "In-law, what do you think would be better for our wedding?" "Ha ha! Xiao Chen Ti Chen." Seeing this, Lin Yun couldn't help but shudder. "What are you trying to do, kid?" "Nothing, but since you said that we'll be even closer, I remember that you have a daughter, right? Her name is Lin Shui, right?" "Xiao Chen, I'm telling you, don't have any ideas about Shui. That's hard to say. Just like you said, it's not good for us to stop this kind of thing. I've successfully won back this round. If your son marries my daughter, then I'll let my son marry your daughter too. Everyone's even." Xiao Chen's face was full of smiles, while Lin Yun was in a bad mood. Xiao Chen walked away in laughter. "Damn it, this Xiao Chen. Where's Shui? Tell her not to go out for the time being and keep an eye on him." After Xiao Chen left, Lin Yun said with a face full of fear. Lin Yun had seen Xiao Chen's two sons. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were giants among men. If these two boys made a move, Shui would probably fall for them. Originally, Lin Yun was very happy that Lin Feng was able to get Xiao Chen's daughter. But now, Xiao Chen actually had ideas about her daughter, which made Lin Yun nervous. In a good mood, they returned to their residence. Seeing Xiao Chen return happily, Qin Shuru and the other girls asked curiously, "Husband, what are you so happy about?" "Haha, I found a marriage for Yao and Lao. "Oh, whose daughter is it?" "Haha, Lin Yun's daughter, Lin Shui." "How is it? Not bad, right?" Hearing this, Qin Shuru and the other girls burst into laughter. They finally understood why Xiao Chen was so happy. It was because of this matter. But putting this aside, Lin Yun's daughter, Lin Shui, was indeed not bad. She was a good match for Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Lin Shui is indeed not bad, but do you plan to choose Yao or Lao? He had 2 sons, but Lin Yun only had 1 daughter. In this regard, Xiao Chen thought for a moment and said, "There's no hurry. When the time comes, we'll ask for their opinions. But let me tell you, Lin Yun's face, haha, it really makes me feel good." When he thought of Lin Yun's dark face when he left, Xiao Chen couldn't help but laugh loudly. He was in a very good mood. At this time, Xiao Luan, who had gone out to play with Lin Feng for half a month, also returned. Seeing Xiao Luan walking into the courtyard, Xiao Chen called out, "Luan Luan." "Father." Seeing Xiao Chen, Xiao Luan was also very happy. She quickly walked in front of Xiao Chen and jumped onto Xiao Chen's body. Although she had grown up, she was still very attached to Xiao Chen. What's more, in recent years, it had been difficult for her to see Xiao Chen. The father and daughter didn't have much time to spend together. Therefore, every time she saw Xiao Chen, Xiao Luan was very happy. Xiao Chen was the same. He patted Xiao Luan's shoulder with a smile and scolded with a smile. "You're so rude. You're already so old and you're still like this. It's nothing. Who asked me to like Daddy? Haha, but after all, you've grown up. I heard that you already have someone you like." As soon as these words came out, Xiao Luan's face turned red. She immediately jumped down and didn't dare to look at Xiao Chen's face. She lowered her head and didn't know what to do for a moment. Xiao Luan and Lin Feng really liked each other. Looking at his daughter's bashful appearance, Xiao Chen was amused and burst into laughter. He sighed in his heart. His daughter had indeed grown up. Now, she already had someone she liked. "Don't worry. I'm not a stubborn person. Besides, I also like Lin Feng. A few days ago, I even went to see your Uncle Lin." "Ah, I went to see Uncle Lin. Of course. His son almost kidnapped my daughter. How could I not go and ask him for an explanation?" Xiao Luan couldn't help but smile. Her father was really cute. However, thinking about the relationship between her father and Uncle Lin, it didn't seem like there was any problem. It could be said that they were life and death friends. The 2 families had always been on good terms. Moreover, her mother and Lu Bingning were also very close. Thinking of this, Xiao Luan looked at Lin Yun, embarrassed. Lin Yun said, "Next time, I'll bring Lin Feng over for a meal. Oh, by the way, bring his sister Lin Shui too." It had been a long time since he had seen Lin Feng. Besides, with his relationship with Xiao Luan, it was natural for Xiao Chen to see him. "Please add me to your collection. Please recommend me." Chapter 2953. When Xiao Luan saw that her father wasn't angry at all, and even took the initiative to invite Lin Feng over for dinner, she was happy. When Xiao Luan saw that her father wasn't angry, and even took the initiative to invite Lin Feng over for dinner, she was happy. After all, even though Xiao Luan wasn't worried that Xiao Chen would object to her being with Lin Feng, Xiao Chen didn't know about it before, so she was a bit nervous. Now, from the looks of it, father seemed to be very supportive of this matter. But inviting Lin Feng over for dinner was normal, but why did he bring Lin Shui? Even though Xiao Luan and Lin Feng were friends and Lin Shui knew each other, it had nothing to do with Lin Shui. "Dad, why did you bring little Shui?" "I have my reasons, of course. You can call me that," Xiao Chen replied with a smile. He was still thinking about how wonderful Lin Yun's expression would be if he managed to take Lin Shui down. With that thought in mind, Xiao Chen smiled and walked away. It seemed that he had gone to look for Xiao Yao and Xiao Luan. "Mom, what's going on with Dad? Don't worry about him. He's getting more and more immature. Come, tell me what happened this time," said Xiao Luan. She sat down with Xiao Luan. Compared to Xiao Chen, Qin Shuru and the others cared more about Xiao Luan. They wanted to know whether she was happy with Lin Feng or not. The mother and daughters chatted while Xiao Chen went to see Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao had already come out of seclusion. When she saw Xiao Chen, Xiao Yao smiled. Father. Yes, not bad. Your cultivation level is stable now. Xiao Yao had just broken through to the ancestor layer, so her cultivation level was stable. The father and son were sitting opposite each other in the courtyard. When Xiao Yao saw that Xiao Chen had taken the initiative to come over, she didn't understand. Father, why did you come to see me? Normally, Xiao Chen was very busy, so he rarely came to see Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Speaking of which, Xiao Chen really didn't care enough about her children. Xiao Chen also felt guilty about this. Xiao Chen answered Xiao Yao's question with a smile. I haven't had much to do in the past few days, so I came to visit you. Speaking of which, it's been a long time since we've talked like this. After making up an excuse, Xiao Chen and Xiao Yao started chatting. Of course, what he said was meaningless. Originally, Xiao Chen wanted to ask Xiao Yao what he thought of Lin Shui. However, Xiao Chen had never experienced something like this before. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Xiao Yao could tell that her father seemed to have something to say but kept avoiding the topic, so she took the initiative to ask. Father, if you have something to say, just say it. Okay. I've been thinking recently that you're not young anymore. I should find a marriage for you. I don't know what you think, so I plan to be steady. As soon as he said this, Xiao Yao was stunned at first. Then, she didn't know what to do. Xiao Chen didn't notice Xiao Yao's reaction at all. Of course, this matter is mainly up to you. If you don't want to, then just pretend that I didn't say anything. Father, actually, I already have someone I like. Oh, what? You also have someone you like? Who is it? He originally wanted to matchmake Xiao Yao and Xuelin, but he didn't expect that Xiao Yao also had someone she liked. Why didn't he know about this? In fact, Xiao Chen was too surprised for a moment. Let alone Xiao Chen, even Xiao Yao's biological mother, Qin Shuru, didn't know about Xiao Yao's matter. Looking at her father's stunned expression, Xiao Yao was even more embarrassed. Xiao Yao, who had been extremely intelligent since she was young, rarely showed such an expression on her face. Under Xiao Chen's questioning, Xiao Yao finally stammered. It's Dongfang Lin. Dongfang Lin? Dongfang Yun's daughter? A strange glint flashed in his eyes as he stared blankly at Xiao Yao. Xiao Chen didn't speak for a long time. The main thing was that he didn't know what to say. He never thought that Xiao Yao would actually get together with Dongfang Yun. It wasn't that Xiao Chen didn't like Dongfang Lin, but it was because of her mother. His relationship with Dongfang Lin's mother, Dongfang Yun, was a little complicated. Especially when they were in the land of creation, it made things a little awkward. Since then, although the two of them tacitly didn't mention that matter again, it wasn't something that could be easily forgotten. He had always deliberately avoided one-on-one contact with Dongfang Yun because it was a little awkward. But he never thought that his son would actually fall in love with Dongfang Yun's daughter. This was really unexpected. Moreover, Xiao Chen knew Xiao Yao's temper very well. She was a person who had her own opinions. Since Xiao Yao could say that she liked Dongfang Lin, then this matter couldn't be false. It seemed that he could only rely on Xiao Lao for Lin Shui's matter. He just didn't know if that little brat could win Lin Shui's heart. He also asked a few more questions about Dongfang Lin, such as when the two of them started dating. As for Xiao Luan, she went to Lin Yun's house the next day. Seeing Xiao Luan, Lin Yun, who was drinking tea in the courtyard, said with a smile. Luan, you're here. Are you looking for Feng Er? Uncle Lin, Xiao Luan called out. Her face was red. Facing Lin Yun, for some reason, Xiao Luan was very nervous this time. Seeing this, Lin Yun also laughed happily. Xiao Chen's daughter was really good. It was very good to have her as her daughter-in-law. Previously, Lin Yun didn't know about Xiao Luan and Lin Feng's relationship, but now that she knew, the more she looked at Xiao Luan, the more satisfied she was. Such a daughter-in-law met Lin Yun's requirements. Being stared at by Lin Yun, Xiao Luan was very shy, but she still mustered up her courage and said, "Uncle Lin, my father wants to invite you and brother Lin Feng to have a meal at his house." "Haha, it's normal. Even if Xiao Chen didn't ask, I also wanted to have a gathering with the two families. After all, you and Feng Er's relationship can be settled." Father also said that he would invite sister Shui Er. Lin Yun, who was originally very happy, suddenly heard that Xiao Chen wanted to invite Lin Shui Er. Suddenly, Lin Yun's face became gloomy. This guy is actually serious. When she thought of this, Lin Yun was extremely unhappy. "Oh, this is what your father said?" "Yes, I don't know what father means, but he specifically said to invite sister Shui Er." "Alright, I understand. You go to the backyard and look for Feng Er. We old guys don't want to get involved in the affairs of you young people." Xiao Luan left with a red face. Lin Yun's face was cold. What a good Xiao Chen, he actually had ideas about my daughter. "You want my daughter to be your daughter-in-law? Dream on, Xiao Chen. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." Chapter 2954. 3 days later, Xiao Chen invited Lin Yun's family to a banquet. Of course, Lin Shui, whom he valued the most, also came. With a dark face, Lin Yun took the lead and walked into the courtyard. When she saw Xiao Chen, she snorted coldly, as if she wanted to tear him apart. Xiao Chen had only himself to blame for inviting Lin Shui to his place. Originally, it was impossible for Lin Yun to agree to let Lin Shui come, but she had no choice. In the end, Xiao Chen was one step ahead and Lin Shui came along. He didn't care about Lin Yun's dark face at all. He took the initiative to walk up with a smile and said with a bright face, "Feng Er is here too. Haha, not bad, not bad." Xiao Chen first praised Lin Feng. In front of Xiao Chen, Lin Feng was also very embarrassed. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's main target this time was not Lin Feng, so after a few words, Xiao Chen turned to look at Lin Shui. A strange look flashed in his eyes, and his smile became even more brilliant. "Shui Er is really getting more and more beautiful." In this regard, Lin Shui blushed and lowered her head without saying anything. When Xiao Chen saw this, he couldn't stop smiling. "Hey, are you done talking? Do you still want to eat?" Seeing Xiao Chen staring at her precious daughter, and even kept winking at Xiao Lao, Lin Yun couldn't help but snort coldly. Lin Yun couldn't help snorting coldly. This guy was simply brazen and didn't put him in his eyes at all. "Haha, you're right. Let's eat first." In this regard, Xiao Chen said with a smile. He was in a good mood today, so he didn't argue with this guy. It wasn't the first time the two families had eaten together. In the past, when Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were not around, Lu Bingning and Qin Shuru would often get together. This led to a good relationship between the younger generation of the two families. Even without Xiao Chen saying anything, Xiao Lao had already started chatting with Shuelin. Seeing Xiao Lao making Shuelin laugh, Xiao Chen was in a good mood. This kid had some skills. He didn't even need to remind him. Compared to Xiao Chen's good mood, Lin Yun had mixed feelings about this. Especially after knowing what Xiao Chen was thinking and looking at Xiao Luan who was chatting with Shuelin, he felt uncomfortable. It was as if something important was about to be snatched away from him. Today is a joyous day. Why are you pulling a long face? Come, let's drink. Xiao Chen took the initiative to invite Lin Yun to drink. She snorted coldly, but still raised her wine glass. During the meal, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were secretly competing with each other. Looking at Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning and the other girls shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Sometimes these two guys really didn't seem like the people who were called divine ancestors. When their little temper flared up, it really made people laugh. The meal was quite good. Other than Lin Yun and Xiao Chen secretly competing with each other, there was nothing else. Of course, everyone was not afraid that the two would really get angry. With their relationship, It was impossible for them to get angry over such a small matter. It was more like they were just fooling around. Give up. My daughter will never marry your son, Lin Yun said coldly before he left. In response, Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry, master. You can't say that. Who knows what these little guys are thinking? Let's not worry about this matter. Let's wait and see. I will never agree." Lin Yun took the initiative to leave with a dark face. Just after Lin Yun left, Xiao Chen gave Xiao Lao a thumbs up. Looking at his father's smile, Xiao Lao did not react for a while. Only Xiao Luan and Xiao Yao at the side held their foreheads and shook their heads helplessly. Their father obviously intended to let Xiao Lao pursue Lin Shui. Unfortunately, Xiao Lao knew nothing about these things. However, looking at Lin Shui's attitude towards Xiao Lao, she did not seem to hate him. Perhaps there was a chance. They returned to their room in a good mood. In the land of creation, Xiao Chen and the others were not in a good mood at this time. Ever since Xiao Chen and Lin Yun rescued the beast slaves, little Qing became more and more gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. In the beginning, Old Tree and the others were worried that little Qing would attack the land of creation out of anger. It was not a good thing to attack the land of creation rashly under the current circumstances. There was still the origin world eyeing it covetously. The primogenitors hoped that the land of creation and the land of creation would fight. That way they would be able to reap the benefit. However, after a few days, little Qing did not do anything strange. Old Tree and the others gradually relaxed. It was indeed good news that little Qing could remain calm and control his emotions. However, Old Tree and the others did not know that little Qing had never given up on revenge. Little Qing knew that he could not start a war with the land of creation. However, he was extremely unwilling to just let it go. Therefore, little Qing had been preparing for something in the past few days. At this time, little Qing, who had not gone out for a few days, suddenly revealed a cold smile. He had finally gathered all the things he wanted. "Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, you deserve to die." His eyes were overflowing with killing intent. It was obvious that he had not truly let go of the anger in his heart. This time, little Qing wanted to give Xiao Chen and the others a painful lesson. Since he could not start a war with the land of creation, he had to at least leave a deep impression on Xiao Chen and the others. With this thought in mind, little Qing's figure flashed and instantly disappeared from the spot. Old Tree and the Stone Spirit Clan's patriarch happened to come. However, after looking around, they could not find little Qing's figure. "Where did the World Spirit go?" asked the Stone Spirit Clan's patriarch, puzzled. The Old Tree was taken aback at first, but he quickly reacted and his expression changed abruptly. "Oh no. What's wrong? I'm afraid the World Spirit has gone to the land of creation." With Old Tree's understanding of little Qing, he definitely would not let it go so easily. Therefore, Old Tree had been paying close attention to little Qing's movements in the past few days. He originally thought that little Qing would have calmed down after a few days. However, who would have thought that little Qing would not give up on revenge? At this moment, little Qing was not in the land of creation. The only place he could have gone to was the land of creation. However, the land of creation could not be underestimated. With the strength of Xiao Chen and the other divine ancestors, they were not afraid of little Qing. Little Qing had gone there alone. How could he gain any advantage? If the land of creation was really an existence that could be destroyed at will, it would not have been able to stand tall in this world. It had already been destroyed by the origin world and the land of creation. Because its strength could not be underestimated, everyone had chosen to temporarily control it. No one wanted to be the first to make the first move. Please collect, vote, recommend.